has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
Akwambo, which literally means path clearing, is celebrated to commemorate the journey and arrival of the founding settlers of the four towns of Jinankuma, Ekrofo, Atakwa, and Otabenaze. This year's edition, marked by pomp and pageantry, was attended by people from all walks of life. In attendance also was former President and flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Mahama, who renewed his commitment to the conduct of a free, fair, and credible election. He entreated the people to vote massively for the NDC to reset Ghana's economy, which is in terrible state.
Ina abana watun wama aye so yimpa no nkwatu sama nkwatu ina aya suru abam na mambasre amayofo yinde ekwan biado aban yaboto na mreka kira mama mfesum wehu na abatu onye ntokwa abatu onye ntokwa Nezai da wasu kwana kachira wadwen anu chira no hezi no kaka achire obi a orhwe wodo nda de meyimpe ina seminyan mo ba hwe oman du mama anka mohu bottom na wa ma ye hu politicians wa ma ye hu nti ya basra ho nda ya ba pacho de se oya yamini pe na 7th December in Bruno San na yankopon na ankasa oyine bada the most mesi ina mesa wono do obaba bohwe Ghana man do ma asumdua abama ya basra da wamba manimu yin ada ho fan osanda Ghana korope na yewo yin Ghana ebie ina sa amanyo 70 santu kwasi ma hade shidom wo hwere hon kwa ina yare kwa hin ya basra politicians mpepi ya yamma kasa da ahroba shisha wazuru ya amanyo sam ina achada hiyamba frano so awo wechirin na achada ye den ye chira ho na say da ahroba shisha ya amanyo sam na ye chira hiyamba fraza na politicians wo mbo hin time ya na yeti na wo complaints wo easy no so no electoral commissioner mami electoral commissioner awu na aye referee a eda ambayofun ho ina ho mu nti se wase patakun na ampatan ye ya ekon onto ye basreda awu na da amanyofun ina ho mu na rehwe da ho an ogbobol ye ho an ogbobol ye ye basre de mankrofo ye complaints wo ho complaints wo ho ye pede improve this Ghana for there ma work kan oyano kwa na yan hwesuro obayano.
Paramount Chief of Abiaze Dominasi Traditional Area, Dasebre Kwebwe Wusi the 8th, urged politicians to desist from dirty and ugly politicking.
What I can promise you is to work hard 24 hours a day and with honesty and truthfulness to make life better for our citizens. We're in an election year and we all pray for a successful and peaceful election. Nana, I am a person of peace and I'm optimistic that our elections this year will be peaceful. But we must work to make it peaceful. We must work together with the National House of Chiefs, with the National Peace Council, and religious groups, civil society organizations, and the Electoral Commission to ensure that all the obstacles to a peaceful election are removed. And that is why the red flags that are being raised by the NDC should not be dismissed. The flags our party is raising about the voters' register are issues that could create disruption in the election. We have evidence of people who registered in one polling station having their names put under the list of another polling station. There are evidence of transfers, mysterious transfers, that need to be investigated. Some people's votes have been transferred to other constituencies without their knowledge and approval. And at least I know the case of Ejumako Enyang Esiam constituency, where at least 3,017 votes were transferred into the constituency illegally. I can pledge to you, my friend and my brother, that as leader of the NDC, I'll do everything possible to ensure that my party contributes to a peaceful election in December 2024.
President of the National House of Chiefs, President Ojiaoho Nana Yaojibi II, also admonished the media to act responsibly and with tact during elections and appealed to the youth from perpetrating violence before, during, and after the election.
Tension no ekosoro into we there nso me de kan na ko ebu ewusi de no ho na sebra ko ebu ewusi say esre party so no eno wo chitaafo eno media say esre mo media ena ma uranda ekukuko no ntokwa eba e de esre mo obia wo ye ne emfata no esre mo nso no so ne nana no so kan kire obia ne say abato de ne obetun aya ma oman no e vote na wo pe every depend ho de sre media for the party for ni nyina monsre every electric no na ne obetumi aya ma mo no maka na mo so koto aba na o mato ama mo na ye to aba no so a eye 7 you know yes yenkan ni nyina wo polling station saba no obedi kunimu a any polling station kese polling station results no correct eno na yekeka bomu a eko national eno no enti ni obedi gugu ono yesrese onyintum na asomdwe emra oman mu mi hu ye ya na mo hwehwe a enti bibia ni ana matwemba ne kotima na mo kono enti yesre mo oman ye nyina ye dia ebinum abua mama beduru sabre ye hwe manum se mode asomdwe ebeba ema ye to aba no na sasomdwe ba na mpuntu yo ba monso daache ya dane ayuna mama na mato aso de sere mabu no mode chitafo redoso ye nyina Ghana fo na yegitu mu se ye mpe one party state ye pe multi party listen na multi party a ne kire ne se ye nyina enko party ba ku obia won party ope na ye mpo se da wuro no e mamanfo ento aba no man.
From the Central Region, Henry Donko's report for Pan-African News.
Nanui ye manifesto editorial. Now be a manifesto no more. Ya kan wo mu say ye be see 16 agro-industrial zones. Interchange said region bia benya baako. Ye be see agro-industrial zone. Ne be ne say ye be hwe ade a ye wo region ho eho a echese edoso enti say ye cashew say ye banchi adwuma say bibia mu ye bia ebro bibia mu dua bia ye be hwe nia ewo say eho factory ye de be si ho ontos factory bibia mu ye bia ye be hwe say ne be ya ye de sa factory ne be si ho ye be ma private people ye be ji asase no near train lights and in Suaba, near boa private sector, no ma be si sa factory no se na be ya ye mabunu benye adwuma ye. Apart from that, ye kuafo nso omodo omo banchi ana omo ebro ana omo bibia na factory for na to no ma ye hu adwuma ma omo. Mokai say 2016 Abraham ye mampanyi Jumedie bi by our friend DKM. Mokai say Samre no MPP for omo MP4 ne one mo omo bodwa eye press conference says DKM no eye me ene mu nua balodi na de Mokai nanu ya enche bia ena omampanyi abedi eche baomia okro bi e wo srima efe ne nandom na okro ho no onam no na abrante bi ene ne nanam a omobo nkomo nti etwa samfoni ne baaye no ene ko ba se DKM amwate no e sa abrante ene ne dia ena ni wofa a oye minister of interior and procedure oji tu mu se DKM rua no oye MPP ni na oye one of the financiers of Omampenya Bedeche Dr. Baumia enti ekire se enkontompo ne ntro a omudigu ye so no enne adedi se na nipa DKM ne de no oye MPP ni ezu musika no di ye no eno bi na order ma Dr. Baumia e de ye ne campaign enti entro de ene America eko ene nokra eko America entro be di kan onso enko dro ewie ye enokra no ene be di nkunim ezu enti MPP for no ba Dr. Baumia ba mumbusa ne se DKM a obewia di pasika koe no mahu se onene nante enti ombusa no na onfa musika mremo.
The ceremony held at the premises of Mankesim branch of the St. Andrews Senior High School was attended by key party officials and supporters. The donated vehicles are expected to facilitate the party's outreach programs, enable effective communication, and mobilize supporters across the region. In his remarks, the Central Regional NDC Chairman, Professor Richard Kofi Asiedu, emphasized the importance of adequate resources in achieving electoral success. He also expressed commitment to supporting the party's campaign and ensuring the Central Region plays a crucial role in securing victory for John Dramani Mahama. Professor Asiedu also reiterated his agenda, christened Agenda 20 Seats, which aims to secure 20 parliamentary seats for the NDC in the Central Region,
including one soundbite truck to be given to His Excellency, the incoming president, inshallah 2024, in order to boost his campaign in the region for the elections 2024. To succeed its agenda to secure 20 seats for the parliamentary elections, as well as 60% of the vote for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. So on behalf of the region, I present the pickups to you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Amen. Former President and flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, who received the donation, expressed his heartfelt gratitude to Professor Asiedu for his kind gesture. He acknowledged the significance of these supports in enhancing the party's campaign efforts and praised the regional chairman's leadership and dedication to the party's cause. This generous donation is a testament to the party's commitment to working together to achieve electoral success.
We know that since you became chairman, a certain vibrancy has come into the region. And it's not only the moral encouragement you give to the region, but also the material support that you give to the region. I want to take this opportunity to thank all those who have donated in kind and in cash to the party. We've received T-shirts, we've received posters, people have donated billboards, we've received pickups, motorcycles, bicycles, and all kinds of logistics that will help us to win the election. You are the first regional chairman to make such a donation, and I want to commend you and congratulate you for it. We're going to dedicate these pickups for the victory of December 2024, and it's my expectation that all those who utilize these pickups would drive them safely and that nobody shall suffer any accident or any harm in sitting in any of these vehicles, and that they will be used for the purpose for which they are, to ensure that we win the majority of seats in the central region and that we also win the presidential election in the central region. And so I dedicate these pickups to the service of the regional executive of the central region of the National Democratic.
From the central region, Henry Donkos reports for Pan African News.
Yes, name say NDC neba empuntu eba. Osha babato ha bibia eye empuntu ewo babato ha nyina eye NDC abreso neba. Sekaniao NDC, Sensio NDC, School Adayo NDC, Bibia Hospital NDC, Akwayo NDC. Na minim say Akwayo ni bi wo ho ana ye ho adwuma. Na ye asane ye fi abai mu. Bibia ye ja na ho ana aka. So no ase busu amakwan ho ana aka. Efi Ezu Efi Kintampo Eko New Longoro and also Akaho. 80 minim say Nyame Adumanti 7 December 2024 NDC Bedi Nkunimu Abato no. Yeba Enyoma ni ye nyina ye na ye see e-blocks say na be ya nkwada no benya secondary school ni biako. Ye pi abai mu e-blocks ni bebre akaho. Enti eba baby ani esi e-block ni bia ye be yen tem ni ewie na ya sesa ye nkoda no na ye de omo akogu secondary school ho. Eza ne twatwo ye se enkabom enema honden se o kuta praye baako na ubumu a ebu enso odi na abomu a ubu a enye yie enti NDC for mesremo ye nyina ye nipa baako menim se ye primaries en ye parliamentary candidate obi a kopre bi enso ye se nipa baako ene betimi enya ye ka so se nyame mre ne mrepa enne aso wei so ekina ebeso wo so na se o ka se menyanti metwetwa menua nanan a enra ekina ebedru wo so a saa na ebetwetwa onan ente mesremo mo a mo ne MP mo call primaries no mo nyina mo beso ni sisi no san ko biom emrepa no ebeba na se also pre na wonya na ye nyina ya so sisi saa na ye pia wo ma wokọ ezu na ne wo ho ne se efri mra NDC fi abai mu ye bambo ekofom wokọ ga na ha bebia obi aye complain we are momo merchanta ube huna wudifo bi a omo ye am robbers no ma beto egu so oti anye ya ne ku aka ho wokọ bebia ye tu sika kokọ a omo ye gold traders ube hwa na nkofo akoto egu omo so omo ti anye ya ne ku omo aka ho ye ma memo eni ye nuanom a omo kodidwa wi a no omo ba so omo timo no na am robber for block na yewia omusika nyina aban so ntime nya hohwe ezu yenim se NDC na ye bambon aba na yenim se NDC ba ombebo ye ho ban se le be ya am robbery e koso no ye be so anu.
Well, good morning as always, and thank you very much for choosing Pan-African Television. We are live from the Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah studios, and we're bringing you the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We are also live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM, your power station. We are live on many other affiliate radio stations across the country. If you are listening to us on one of them, do make sure to be an active part of this show. You can send a text message or a WhatsApp message through our WhatsApp or text message number. Kindly be a part of the show. I'm Sena Nombo, and today we are having a discussion on the resurgence of Galamsey. In many forms: community mining, small scale mining. Then of course there is the illegal part where you can actively on the Accra-Kumasi highway see people digging right by the side of the road in search of gold. We are talking about this also because this week, in fact, the weekend, the lead up to this week, there was a statement issued by the Central Regional Ghana Water Company Limited. Their problem was simple. Right now, the machines we have cannot process the water that's coming out of the river bodies we depend on because the turbidity levels are quite high, which means the water is too polluted for their machines to actually process. The chief manager told us on Monday that they are way beyond the level. In fact, it will take them a whole day to process water. The whole day. They have to put the water through the system for the whole day to do that. Questions are being asked about what happened to the fresh fight when Samuel Abu Jinapor came into office. The fight against irresponsible mining that destroys our environments and our water bodies. Their response is NDC. They say the NDC has gone around encouraging people to do Galamsey. That's why the NDC is doing it. And one of the men who had the ear fingered is in the studio with us this morning. Because this video has been making the rounds. They use it as a justification for the reason Galamsey is ongoing. Even though it has been pointed out to them that you have the power. You have the power to act. Why are you not acting? We'll also be discussing the resurgence of Galamsey and the effects on river bodies and the entire environment. And of course, the general impacts, because even the education is being affected. Well, then we'll discuss the voters register. Yesterday, the NDC made a call for a forensic audit of the register. They indicated that the UNDP is ready to help. All they want is for the Electoral Commission to agree. The EC says no. There will be no forensic audit. Even though they suspended their Pusiga head. Why? Because transfers had been done there without the consent of the voters involved. The voters are in Sanyarugo and Tamale South, but their votes are in Pusiga. And they have no idea that their votes are in Pusiga. That has happened to many voters. The NEC says the only way to resolve that is to do a forensic audit of the register. The EC says no. The NEC says we won't stop pushing for that. So we'll talk about the voters register and matters arising. And to conclude, are we on the verge of selling Saglami housing project? After many years of condemnation and criticism, among others, this week the president has given his authorization, cabinet authorization to move to hand over the project to a private developer. Well, so those are the issues we'll be discussing this morning. And of course, as always, be a big part of that discussion. We are live on Facebook, Pan-African Television. We are also live on YouTube, Pan-African Television. Well, joining me in the studio to discuss the issues today, always a pleasure seeing Lawyer in the Morning. Lawyer Andrew Appiah Dankwa is a member of the Movement for Change, Alliance for Revolutionary Change. He joins us this morning. It's been a while since I saw you.
Yeah.
I hope you're well.
Good morning to you. Yeah, you know, usually I don't, Pan-African, in terms of my media engagement, your station is my priority. So if I don't come, that means that there's something I can't help it. I wasn't well for a while.
Okay.
In fact, I was hit by a very terrible bout of COVID.
Oh.
Yeah, so,
really?
so that's the reason for my having been absent on your station for a while. But I'm back. I'm back ready to fire and fight for the salvation of our country.
And this morning I was thank you, Lawyer. And I'll start with you actually. I was talking about one of the men whose videos have been making the rounds. He had to do some adjustment to his schedule to join us in studio this morning to be part of this discussion. Dr. Tony Obing is a manifesto spokesperson for the National Democratic Congress on specifically the area we are discussing today. He's a man who knows mining quite well, and he joins us in the studio. Doc, good morning.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. I watch Pan-African, but it's the first time I've been on the set. And it's really a privilege to be on this particular program, a program that has been previously, and not previously, in fact, we have legends like Kwesi Pratt being part, Professor Dona Hammond in the past being part, not the big wigs who have pioneered this Alhaji and Alhaji, and I'm so happy to be here.
Great. Nice to see you, Doc.
Thanks.
And of course, Adjoa, always a pleasure seeing you. I hope you're well.
Yes, I am doing well. I'm doing well.
Dr. Percy, who is a student of history and politics, will join us to complete the panel. Well, let's start the discussion off from the issue of Galamsey and matters arising. Like I said, I'll start from my right with lawyer Andrew Apiadankwa. Take his thoughts on the issue.
Yeah, so once again, let me wish your viewers a good morning. Wish my co-panelists a good morning. Hopefully we can together discuss the issue, not on a partisan basis, but as in with Ghana being a sole consideration. See, I think this issue about Galamsey, the recent issues concerning Galamsey, really borders on the impact of Galamsey, because as in last week we all heard what the Ghana Water Company said about their struggles in purifying the water for our consumption. For me, when I analyze the issue, I want to look at it beyond just Galamsey. As a Galamsey simpliciter, I think the issue borders on what can befall us, or what really is the essence of government. Because over the last 1 month, we've had certain reports that really jolts this issue to the fore. I think it's been about a month or two when the Afro Barometer report came out, and then said that increasingly we are losing confidence in the system of governance. Also, I think Ghana, for a country whose economy has largely been built on cocoa, because when there were cocoa, it was Ghana. There have been reports that our cocoa productivity is really shrinking to the extent that Ghana, the home of premium cocoa, struggling to raise financing from outside to purchase cocoa. Personally, I've never seen the sense in we going to procure a facility in foreign currency to buy cocoa in CD. However, the fact that there was always a clamor by finance houses to plug into our cocoa powers by way of granting us financing gave us comfort, because then it told us about the confidence the world had in Ghana's cocoa industry. Now that support is being pulled, as in we are struggling to raise financing. And then just a week we hear that right now Ghana Water Company is also struggling to purify the waters for us to use. And it brings in sharp focus the essence of governance, of government. And in all these issues, for me, I wouldn't want to look anywhere. I want to focus squarely on the president and what this represents as to his ability to fulfill his obligations under our Constitution 1 and the oath he himself took. For me, the starting point would have to be the social contract. Yes, I know people who are scholars who say that the whole idea of, or the whole concept of philosophy of social contract as in predates the 80s. As I mentioned Epicurean, you mentioned Plato, Socrates, and all. They were discussing social contract as a philosophy, as a political philosophy a long time ago. But we all agree that discussions on social contract, or the proper place to start any discussion on social contract, has to do with Thomas Hobbes' writings in the Levantine, where he discussed about the state of man. The fact that man in his natural state is in a state of war. Everybody is fighting everybody. And that the state of man in his natural state is very brutish. It is anarchic, short, nasty area, you understand? And that in that state, because we are all free people and because nobody has authority over everybody, then what will characterize that state is rape, plunder, murder, or actions which we all call anarchy. That's akin to anarchy. You understand? Now, it is to prevent this anarchy, this negative state of man, why we formed governments in the first place. Because then we understand that the reason why we form government from the idea of the social contract is that every single person will cede a bit of their rights. All of us, we cede a bit of our rights to central government. One, for what purpose? To create the social structures, to create the economic structures, to create the political structures that will ensure that our rights that were not given to them by, not that were not given to us by anybody, that were not given to us by any law, rights that were actually given to us by nature itself, by God. Those rights will be protected because of the ability of the body, the authority we've ceded our powers to create the right social structures, the right political structures, the right economic structures, where our rights will be protected, and to where we can have the best opportunity of pursuing our individual happiness. Now, you also agree that because we are biological beings and human beings are homeopathic, now what that means is that we need the right environmental system to survive. Now, when nature itself have created a lot of balances that will aid us to survive biologically, and so you need a water system. You need, as they say, what you breathe out carbon and you breathe in what oxygen. You understand? And in that cycle of life, you need that ecological balance. But the land and the forest, which will grant us the same ecological balance, are also the same places that houses the resources that can give us the best chance of fulfilling our happiness, finding livelihoods. And that's the premise for the whole concept of sustainable development. So I mean that in how you develop, in how you pursue your economic agenda, it must be done within the context of sustainable development. How do you best tap your natural resources for economic gain without necessarily disturbing the ecological balance? Now, this tax is part of the reason why we entered into a social contract, because we understand that no one of us individually can create that system where we use our resources for economic gain without affecting and impacting the ecological balance. Indeed, one of the biggest rights we ceded per a 1992 constitution was the right that says that even though we all know, we understand that when it comes to land, when you want to define what land is not, it goes beyond just what is on the surface. But land includes your right over everything that goes all the way to hell, for want of a better word, and all the way to heaven. When it comes to minerals in its natural state, because of the calamity that can befall all of us if we allow people to mine unregulated, then the best way of protecting all of our interests in keeping the ecological balance in place, we need to create a trust. We need to create a regime where even though you own the land, if there's any mineral in it, it won't be for you. Because that's the only way we can keep that ecological balance, which can impact all of our lives. So in the social contract we sign with our government, we say, listen, we are going to see that as a bit of our individual rights. We are going to allow you to tax us. We are going to allow you to take a bit of our income, our revenue. We are going to give you the right to even take away our right to our freedom if we should infringe on certain laws. We are going to give you the power to create laws to regulate our lives, regulate how we do business, regulate how we live. But also, we are going to give you the right to have legal title over our mineral resources, even though the lands are not for you. Except to say that you are going to hold them in trust, and you are going to hold them in trust for and on behalf of every single person who is a Ghanaian. That was the contract we signed with our government. You understand? And so it's with the government, but we know that the human beings that constitute that government can change. So in 2016, when we went to vote on 7th December, we signed a contract. We signed a contract with the president of Ghana, with government, including the parliamentarians. And you see, I've had the opportunity of speaking about Galamsey, and never have I included the parliamentarians, but we don't go to add the parliamentarians, because they're also part of government, and they have a role to play. So we signed a contract with them. So per the terms of that contract, a trust has been created in him, in the president specifically, and what we expect, that the president is going to respect and obey and fulfill the duties that expressly, impliedly, are placed on him as a result of that trust. Casually, we know that when a trust is created on you, you automatically have a fiduciary duty placed on you. That fiduciary duty simply means that in how you use your legal interest regarding the trust property, your sole consideration will be to use those rights in the best and ultimate interest of the beneficiaries, of the people of Ghana. And two, when a trust has been created in you, it is your obligation to protect that trust property, to ensure that it is not stolen. It is your obligation. You understand? So those are some of the key obligations placed on the president. But the law didn't end there. The law then taxed Parliament. That yes, I've created a trust in your president as part of the social contract any government will have with its citizens. Create structures, institutions, create laws that will create structures and institutions that will aid the president, in how he dispenses with his obligations under the terms of those trusts. And that's the history of the creation of the Minerals Commission. Not just the Minerals Commission. I told you that at the end of the day, when you're mining, you need to mine in a manner which is sustainable. Because sustainable development has been a huge issue for more than a generation. In fact, for always. But the world has recognized that. And so when they went to all those conferences, and they said Ghana took over 600 people, went to agree on the SDG Compact, all the 17. It was all to govern how we use our resources in a manner that will not impact the ecological balance. Because immediately you impact the ecological balance, immediately you touch the water cycle. What about climate change issues in Ghana? That's why because of climate change, we are on the brink of starvation in Ghana. That's how serious the issues are. Okay. So Parliament also created Forestry Commission. You understand? Because we also recognize that to keep that ecological balance, then you need to always have some forest which is reserved to protect some of the cycles, the biological cycles that are critical in sustaining and in maintaining the ecological balance, which is necessary to preserve our very existence. And then we had the EPA. So when you're talking about mining, the business of mining, it's not just about the president has a legal title, but these are the institutions that we have been created to aid in the dispensation of his duties under the trust. Also, we understand that we need to mine, because we need to and do so sustainably. And so the president, in dispensing with his obligation as the legal title of all mineral resources here, uses the process of concession. So they give concessions. When the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources gives concession, we need to understand that the minister is only using the powers of the president. Because the ministers are agents of the president. We didn't give executive powers to any minister. We gave executive powers to the president. But the law we allow, you see, President, we have given power that you can call people, ask people to help you, serve as your agents. Now, what that means is that there's also an obligation that if any person, if your agent is using the powers you have given you in a manner which is adverse to the purpose and object of those powers, there is your responsibility to call that minister to order, indeed to sack the minister. We need to understand that. You get the picture. Now we also need to understand that in the system of in the government, in the system we created, the people of Ghana we created, to aid us in just fulfilling the terms of the social contract we signed with government. We said, listen, we won't put all the governmental powers into one body, because that will be inimical to the purpose for which we even undertook that social contract. So we are going to create in Parliament and give them powers to serve as an oversight over the executive. And so when they are giving concessions, Parliament must approve, no so. Is that the case? So we give Parliament powers. Now I'm saying all this so that we can then analyze and appropriate rightly blame. But we also need to understand that it's very critical that in that social contract, in the contract, as the people we give our powers to government, government loses the legitimacy to continue using the powers we give them. Immediately they start using those powers in a manner that is adverse to the purpose for which we give those powers to them. We need to understand that. Because in the social contract, we do not give powers to government because they are the most handsome, because they are the most strongest, because they are the tallest. Because if we wanted to give governmental powers to the tallest, then another will be far away from those powers. But even though he's one of the shortest men in Ghana, we gave him those powers for a purpose, so that you use those powers to build the right social structures, you build the right political structures, you build the right environmental structures, you build the right economic structures, so that we'll have the best opportunity, one, of our rights being protected, of our rights to pursue our own happiness being guaranteed. Now, Galamsey has been with us for a very long time, granted. We've seen successive governments fight Galamsey to their best of abilities. We saw President Kufuor, how he fought Galamsey. We saw Professor Mills, how he fought Galamsey. In 2013, we all witnessed the war John Mahama waged against Galamsey. In 2016, Ghanaians collectively said, listen, not just Galamsey, but in how John Mahama, you've handled all issues concerning governance. We don't think we would want to renew our contract with you. So emphatically, for the first time in the history of this country, we give John Mahama 44%. He said, no, the job of creating those structures that can fulfill the terms of the contract we signed with government, you cannot handle it, so please take a rest. So for me, if you're talking about Galamsey and its negative impact in 2024, Mahama's name shouldn't even come in. Unless if he's coming, that means if Mahama's name will come in, then you are going to look at what he says he will do to fight Galamsey in case he becomes president again in 2025. But if you're talking about Galamsey now, then the only person we should consider is the person we've granted our powers to from 2017 till now. He's the only person we should consider. So how has Nando fought Galamsey? Especially when he came in and was saying all the beautiful things. I'm going to put my presidency on the line. So the president came. The first thing he did was to sidestep the structures the constitution felt needed to be created to aid you, the president, in the fight against illegal mining. He said, we all need to understand, sometimes we seem to confuse things. Galamsey is not the same as small-scale mining. We need to understand that. Galamsey is not the same as small-scale mining. Galamsey is simply any mining which is done outside of authority. Now, when I say outside of authority, see, even the license, sometimes we have so many kinds of licenses. We have the exploration license, we have different licenses. You have some licenses which just gives you power to go and determine whether or not indeed you have minerals in commercial quantities there. So if you use the license that you have been granted in a manner outside the scope of that license, then you've committed illegal mining. You've mined illegally. You understand? And I think, I'm sure my brother here will better explain things, himself being in the mining sector. In fact, even if you use practices which are not agreeable to mine, you've committed illegal mining. So let's understand, because small-scale mining itself is not bad at all. Indeed, any government that is serious, that wants to aid in alleviating poverty and creating livelihoods, needs to find a way of supporting people in the business of small-scale mining to mine and mine well. Yeah, you understand? But we're talking about Galamsey here. Now, when Anadu came, he said he was going to fight against the act of people stealing government. Because when you do Galamsey, he said what they are doing is you are stealing the property of Ghana, one. And in the manner in which you are stealing the property of Ghana, you're also destroying that ecological balance that we are all talking about. Also, the obligation on the president, because of, I'm talking about the same environment and the need for us to preserve the environmental integrity of this country, to give us the best chance of surviving, because we are biological beings. Is to ensure that the forest that is reserved, the forest that we say is reserved, you do not allow people to enter and disturb the balance there, to disturb the ecological balance there. And Anadu came, he said all the right things. Strangely, he did not, clearly when he came, he knew. Because when you read Prof. Frimpong Boateng's report, one of the key things he says that the institutions that we created to aid the president to dispense with the trust we created in him were not strong. The Minerals Commission were not strong for whatever reasons. So I would think that when you have the chance of being president, you find ways of strengthening the institutions whose duty it is to regulate mining. Okay. So you strengthen the Minerals Commission, strengthen the Forestry Commission, you strengthen the EPA. When the president came, his approach was to create a parallel institution. I think my mom also made the same mistake, the interministerial committee thing. You understand? So he created a parallel institution, claimed to be fighting Galamsey anyway. Prof. Boateng's report is saying that in 2018, the president, having recognized the importance of safeguarding our forest reserves from being entered and mined, gave clear instructions to his minister. Minister, stop issuing any mining licenses for any mining activities in the forest reserves. The minister flouted those orders, gave licenses for people to go and mine in the forest reserves. What did the president do? Indeed, the report claims that the head of the Forestry Commission, one of the bodies, because it's a balancing act, the mineral people, they are mining, but because I'm talking about sustainable development, you need a Forestry Commission to also regulate how they can mine and mine sustainably. Same with the EP, regulate how you can minimize the impact of the mining on the environmental integrity. But they're all complicit. They're all complicit. And most critically, the report is saying that people in the president's party were engaged in mining, the politicians themselves. The people, the system we created for that, we need to give political powers to create systems that will best protect our collective interests. They were engaged in mining. And the person we gave our executive powers to create the right structures, enforce the laws, the president slept. He slept. The report was granted him. I've heard MPP communicators say that indeed it was Prof. Frimpong Boateng's personal report. And so, because it was Prof. Frimpong's personal report, and you, the person in whom a trust has been created in you, the Commander-in-Chief of Ghana Armed Forces, you, the person who's supposed to have the first-hand information as to everything happening in the length and breadth of Ghana, who's supposed to know that the water bodies were turning brown, who's supposed to know that the water bodies were mercury-laden, cyanide-laden, arsenic-laden. He ought to have those information. Where the report had been given you, a report that said that, listen, we are losing the fight against Galamsey because the people who are actually doing the galamsey are from your party. I know the report said that the people from the NDC also, simply to say the other Ghanaians also involved in galamsey. But I can bet you, if you, the president, use the executive power to stop your party apparatchiks, if you sack your MPs and ministers you hear are doing galamsey, 80% of the war against galamsey will be won. Immediately, he sent a loud signal. But the president slept. He didn't do anything. The president simply, when he was called to fulfill his obligations under the social contract he signed with the people of Ghana, he turned his head left. He turned his head left. He refused to respect his obligations under the terms of the contract we signed with him. Okay, so the president, what did our representatives in parliament do? Indeed, my heart was broken when I heard a leader in parliament calling for a debate. A debate not to discuss how they can use the powers they have to enhance and create the right political culture that can sustain the democracy we have. Not a debate on how they can cause the process that will lead to a restoration of the economic credibility in this country, because we've lost economic credibility. Not a debate on how to cause a restoration of political credibility. Not a debate on how to cause a restoration of our dying environment. But he is calling for a debate to determine between the MPP MPs and the NDC MPs, between these two parties, which of them have supervised the destruction of our environment. The most. That's what a leader in parliament is asking. And for me, as a citizen, as a party to that social contract we signed, question I ask myself, do they still have that legitimacy? Having blatantly reneged on their obligation under the terms of those social contracts. The president on 7th January 2017 and in 2021 took an oath that was simply stating.
And please, you have to land on that note for me.
An oath that was simply stating that he was going to respect the terms of his social contract. He said he was going to be faithful to Ghana. The president said that he was going to be faithful to his obligations under the terms of the social contract he undertook with us. The president said he was going to be faithful to the terms of the trust he took. The president said he was going to be faithful in keeping the environmental integrity of this country. The president took an oath that he was going to dedicate himself to the well-being of every single person in Ghana. Mr. President, are you fulfilling those terms? Insofar as your citizens, people of Ghana, have to deal with drinking cyanide, mercury, lead-laden water at the peril of their life, are you fulfilling the terms of your obligation to dedicate yourself to the well-being of Ghana when the land, the source of the livelihood of your people, have been disseminated? President, are you fulfilling the terms of your oath? Are you fulfilling the terms of your oath when the integrity of the environment is being affected? When today you are telling us that you are begging Ghanaians, you are begging Parliament to dip your hands into a contingency fund because we are on the brink of food insecurity, which you say have been caused because of climate change. But you have climate change when you enter into a forest reserve, when you allow people to enter into a forest reserve, people from the party. I understand some Pines company and some MPP people, they have been granted permission to enter into a forest reserve to mine until 2053. Mr. President, have you fulfilled the terms of your obligation? So that will end. In that same oath, the president said that should he breach any of the terms of the oath he took, then he's going to submit, he's going to subjugate himself to the laws of this country and suffer pain as a result of that. Sena, I want to use this your platform. I think it is evidently clear that the president has breached the terms of the social contract he signed with us. By so doing, he's lost every legitimacy to continue using the powers we give him. The president also, by the terms of his own oath, has evidently been unfaithful to Ghana. He has evidently failed to dedicate himself to the well-being of the people of Ghana in this Galamsey menace. So why is he not submitting himself? Why is Mr. President not submitting himself to the laws of this country and suffer pain as a result of that? I'll call on him. Kwekwado, President of Ghana, submit yourself to the laws of this country and suffer pain. Resign. Resign and cause a resurrection of the integrity of political leadership. Because we need it. Now, to end, we are going to sign another social contract come 2024. Certainly, the issues concerning mining and Galamsey will be at the fore. Honorable Alhaji And Alhaji is putting himself up. He's saying that in the matter of Galamsey and in the matter of mining, sustainable mining, one, he's simply going to enforce the law. Two, he's going to give institutional support to people who are into small-scale mining. Because like I said, we should not create a situation where we give the price if mining is bad. Mining is not bad. If mining is done in a regulated manner, if mining is done sustainably, the mining has the potential to cause a transformation of the lives of the people who live in those areas. And all we need is right leadership. Leadership that will simply enforce the law. Leadership that will support people, Ghanaians, in small-scale mining, because small-scale mining is just for Ghanaians, so we can't kill them. Support Ghanaians in small-scale mining and grant leadership that will lead to a fulfillment of your terms, your obligations under the social contract we signed. And that is simply what Alhaji And Alhaji intends to do. Let us give our votes to him and let Alhaji give us a leadership that will restore the confidence the people of Ghana have in the ability of politics to transform their lives. Thank you.
Thank you for laying a very good foundation. Lawyer Andrew Dankwa is a member of the Movement for Change, laying the foundation of the ground framework within which our politics works when it comes to the matter of mining. Luckily for us, the man right by him is the former chief executive of the Minerals Commission and also the Ghana Chamber of Mines. So I'll come to him shortly. But before that, he was just talking about this is the fourth estate has done some work when it comes to mining in the forest, in our forest. And I'll just read a portion of it for you. I'll jump many lines. There's a point where they say the irony, however, is that in 2019, an internal EPA memo raised concerns about the upsurge in the number of forestry entry permits. That's in 2019, being issued by the Forestry Commission. In view of the environmental sensitivity, quote, in view of the environmental sensitivity of these forest reserves, and in the light of illegal full-scale mining operations being clandestinely undertaken in some forest reserves under the guise of prospecting, it is critical that the agency carefully considers this phenomenon to shape its decision on the issue. End quote. The memo written by the then Chief Program Officer, Justin Jajra, said after the Forestry Commission had issued 47 forest entry permits within a year. 3 years after the memo raised the alarm, the EPA was pushing for the passage of LI 2462, which appears to have attracted even more interest in mining in Ghana's forest reserves. The First Estate investigation revealed that as of August 13, 2024, at least 25 companies had filed 32 applications to mine and prospect in 24 forest reserves. A number of these companies are owned by politicians from the governing New Patriotic Party. It appears most of these companies had anticipated that the law would be passed and were already preparing themselves and angling for concessions to mine for mineral resources ahead of its passage. The Fourth Estate investigation showed that Mr. Pine, a former Ashanti Regional Secretary of the MPP, is a joint shareholder and beneficial owner of Sam and Jan Limited, incorporated in 2017. He owns this company with Ohini Amankwajan, a Kumasi-based radio presenter, who is also the lawyer for the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation. Sam and Jan Mining Limited has a mining lease in the Odan Forest Reserve in Ashanti region until 2053. Other companies owned by people with serious political connections to the ruling New Patriotic Party have either been granted concessions or are in the final stages of the approval process. In fact, the name of Chairman Wuntumi comes up here too. So it's a report that they've put together on what is happening within our forest reserves, if we have any left in the mining areas. If you just join us, we are discussing the resurgence in Galamsey and the impact it's having on the environment. And like I said, we'll take the views of Dr. Tony Elbing on this matter.
Thank you very much. My colleague, maybe senior counsel, has actually laid the foundation very well, traversing the philosophical route to the issue of mineral rights or mineral resource or even natural resources, so to speak. That is absolutely the way to go. I always start with a very religious background that God, and forgive me for those pastors and priests if I say God was not stupid. God is not stupid to give you the natural resources, to give you gold, to give you diamond, to give you, those things that you can exploit for your own welfare. So God gave these things to us so we can sensibly explore and exploit, because he didn't put it on the floor. He didn't put it on the surface. He said it's in the belly of the earth. Use your senses. Use what God has given you, the technology and all that, to try and explore and find them. And then when you have found them, use them usefully so that your welfare will be enhanced. So, I mean, if you look at it from there, it's something that if you don't use your senses in a way that will help you maintain your own livelihood, then you are being sinful. That is in addition to the political philosophical approach that my colleague just began with. Ghana has been blessed with a lot of minerals, predominantly gold. Gold constitutes about 95% in value of the mineral resources that we do have. And so our attention seems to have been drawn to that particular mineral. And it's understandable, because gold is, they say it's a small volume mineral, but high value mineral. When I have gold, if I have gold in my pocket now, you will know. If I have bauxite, you see it. So you can have more gold, put that in your pocket, but the value, if you went to sell it, would be bigger than maybe bauxite. So our attention seems to have been drawn to that level. Now, when we come to small-scale mining, for which we are now, because of the illegal side of it, suffering, and the illegality, my colleague, Mr. Apiadankwa, actually clarified that illegality or galamsey has to do with doing the thing outside the framework of the law. So even when you have your license, and sometimes people flaunt a license, oh, me, I have a license, and then they are mining in a different place. Then your license are geo-specific. They are related to a particular space. If you move 1 centimeter outside that place and you are mining, you are doing illegal mining. So it goes beyond just not having license, but even having license and abusing the licenses. So that's the challenge. So until 1989, it was completely outlawed for Ghanaians to do small-scale mining. You should have been an employee of a big mine from the colonial times. I mean, proud to that, Ghanaians could mine. People in the Wassa area, Awodia, Ashanti, and all that, they could mine before colonialism. But in the period of colonialism, that was completely outlawed. And if you were found digging for gold, it was illegal. So you remember that maybe in the 80s, there was galamsey. The military was chasing them. The police was chasing them. But the government realized that, look, people are doing it even after being chased. Soldiers will go sometimes take their black. At that time, I didn't hear about killings though. Do all those things, but the next day they will go back. In fact, if I spoke with some people, say, oh, sometimes we hear they are coming, so we go and hide and we shout scatter, and everybody will scatter. As soon as they have left, they will go back. So it is not the most sustainable way of managing the illegal side of it. Government then, under President Rawlings, thought that why don't we somehow legalize it and then have some management around it, some control, based on the law of the country. I mean, he was talking about, I think Article 257 or something like that. So Parliament at that time, I mean, the government at that time passed the law that sort of legalized small-scale mining, and that's where the Mercury law also came up. And so it was supposed to be a way that you could go for your license and legitimately go and mine. If you recall, Sena, the drink that people drink quite well, akpeteshi, at a point in time, it was illegal to produce akpeteshi in this country. And so I'm sure there's a legal case about that. And government realized that people were drinking it. You couldn't control it, even though it was illegal. So they decided to pass a law to regulate it. Now, akpeteshi is not drunk that much. It is now, what is it, alomo bitters. It's transformed itself. There has been value added. So sometimes when you look at the situation and you put legal clothes around it properly, you stabilize the situation and you make it better. And I think that was the reason why government at that time looked at it that way. I believe that at the time that law was being made, which only said small-scale mining must be done by Ghanaians, you must be 18 years or 21 years old, and that they did not actually define what a small-scale mining is. They actually said who should do small-scale mining. And it's clear that if you are a non-Ghanaian, even if you are a brother in Burkina Faso, you're not a Ghanaian, you can't do small-scale mining in Ghana. If you are let alone if you had a color that provide the suspicion. I don't want to say that everybody who is Caucasian in their outlook is not a Ghanaian, because there are people who naturalize as well. But if you see a Caucasian mining in group, you must be suspicious. You know, you must be suspicious. The law is also very clear that you cannot mine on water bodies. Water bodies. So if you saw anyone doing what people call tutu on the water body, in fact 5 days ago I got some people to do a video for me, and there are people just turning the beds of rivers, you know, I think it was Prowse or one of the rivers, and just sanctioning the sand, you know, to produce gold. This is absolutely illegal. So as soon as you saw someone doing that on waters, you must say that the person is doing something illegal, because the law says, the regulations says you can't do mining. In fact, according to the Minerals Commission, the nearest anybody can mine closer to river body is 100 meters. 100 meters is like goalpost. You know, when you go to the playing field, the soccer field, one post to another post. So that's long enough. The Water Commission says 30 meters, and even that is long enough, let alone 100 meters. So if anyone is mining any distance less than 100 meters to a water body, it is completely an illegal activity. So these regulations and the laws are there. The challenge that we have had is not only implementation. Sometimes when illegality comes in, it moves away from regulation, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, to enforcement. It moves to enforcement because the person is now stealing. So the person must be arrested. I use this analogy often, the highways. The highways is responsible for the construction of our highways. They don't physically do that, but they are in charge of our highways. But when the roads are done, they are like the excavators who work on the roads. They don't even have to be on the roads again. It is largely the security officers who check and see if you are driving according to the speed limits provided by law. if you are driving within the legal space of traffic. So the enforcement aspect comes in. Now, so if you're looking for how things have not worked, look for some of these things, whether and the questions that were asked were legitimate. Are we enforcing these things? Are we providing the regulations? Are the institutions providing the appropriate regulations, appropriate monitoring system, appropriate implementation system? That's a question that needs to be answered. And I would want to say that when someone is on I'll quickly go on to this thing that you mentioned about a video that is going around before I come to the position of the NDC government when they come to power. When someone is drowning and he has nowhere to go, what he looks for is a straw, anything that will hang. He sees even a piece of bread in the water, he will go and hold on to it and still drown. And so I find it so funny, so strange that someone visits a small-scale mining site, and I've asked people whether they've gone to a Galamsey site before. He visits there, he stands there, and in fact, we went to two places, and then the person is the one who is escalating illegal mining. When the person went with his hands, bare hands, and his mouth, let's say, and so the whole national small-scale mining space turns illegal, and for which reason 5 constituencies were lost. What a shame. How powerful were these 4 or so men who went to 2 places to cause elections to be won or to be lost? How powerful are they? Yeah, I say that this kind of heroic adulation, I don't want to take that, because some people say because this man went, because Tony Obin went to this, we lost those. Is it because of a visit to a mining site that MPP lost some seat? Didn't they lose in areas where mining doesn't take place? My own in-law, Teshi, the minister of health, is my in-law. Didn't he lose? He lost. Is there any Galamsey in Teshi? No. There are many areas that so you lost the elections because of poor performance. And if you lost some seats in the mining areas, it is because of the impact of your activity, the impact of your inactivity, let me say, the impact of your failure to address the menacing challenge of illegal mining. Now, what is governance? When governance is a continuous affair. In 2013, President Mahama and his team actually saw that the issue of illegal mining was getting to a head. So he formed this interministerial task force, and he sent some military people to go. In fact, it was a joint military and police just to minimize the negative impact of these forces when they go to those places. In fact, his target largely was not on the Ghanaians, because President Mahama believes that those people who are actually seen on the field mining are employees. They are people who have been hired by big people who are living in Accra, Takoradi, and all that. So his target was to get them out anyway and educate them and possibly show them how to do it properly. His target was on the foreigners who were there. No wonder over 1,000 Chinese were arrested during the swoop, and some of them were actually repatriated. You know, at the time when the president sent the military there were some MPP MPs, and for want of, I mean, for fear of legal battles, I'm not going to mention names, but the MP was on radio saying what President Mahama was doing was state terrorism. State used the word state terrorism. That was then. At that time, they were in opposition. It was state terrorism. So for about 3 months or so, this exercise had to stop. The president said, look, let's look for another way of addressing this. He thought that using the brute force would not solve this problem in a sustainable manner. So he assembled some people to think, to research, and to understand the problems and propose some solutions. Some solutions were actually proposed, and the president was excited. There were some programs that had been started, and they were going to, in fact, launch. I remember we said, let's launch this in Kumasi so that we'll have a lot of people there. And then the election came. It was around 2016. Election came, and we went. The documents were left behind because I stayed there for a while before I left. So they were, when they started saying stop Galamsey, there was no policy. I can say on authority. They had proposed a nice term, MMIP, multilateral mining improvement, something. Then I asked, so what is that multilateral? Oh, Tony, you are going to have to populate that. And I'm saying this because there are some people, whoever, you guys have to. I said, but they were handing over notes there, so you can say, yes, find a way of populating that. So we started working on that before, we all had to leave. So you learn from what the previous government has done, see the challenges that came out of it, and improve. You don't go and say, who did the worst? Who they raised to the bottom. Who destroyed more? We have destroyed less. You destroyed. I mean, that was very unfortunate from somebody at that high level. So the government should have learned lessons from the task force, the activities of the task force, and the outcome, and they didn't do that. I was not the one. You were not the one who, wanting to come to power, said that I am not going to stop Galamsey. I'm sure you remember when President Akufo-Addo, then a candidate, was coming to power. He actually castigated NDC for wherever he heard that, I don't know. But he said NDC says, I am going to stop Galamsey. It's not true today, it's not true tomorrow. And that I am going to strengthen Galamsey. I didn't say that. The whole world heard it. And later on, when I spoke with some Galamsey people, they said, oh yeah, we're contributing 10,000 every area to support the campaign. So obviously he needed to do that. He came to power, saw that no, I should stop it. And so I'm going to stop it to the extent that my seat, in fact, I'll stick to my oath and then subject myself if I'm unsuccessful in stopping Galamsey. So it was the right thing he did, that he stuck his presidency on that, because his oath challenges him to do that. And everybody thought, even though they adopted some rough, crude tactics, you cannot attack people who have the license and the right to mine, those with license and doing it legitimately. At that time, I remember there were some small-scale companies that were doing it properly. We had a premium arrangement for them so that their gold would be bought at a premium level, because we're encouraging them to do it in a proper way. All of them, some of them, they had their excavators burnt, they were arrested, some even had to die because of these the approach in trying to stop that. At that time, when those statements were made, there were no policy backing them. Sometimes a minister will go and stand somewhere. We are not going to do anything. Everybody must stop. But that is not the way you stop. You impact or affect a policy. You need to have a written policy, policy for cabinet to approve. That was not happening. So at that point, you realize that they had lost it, and they were making trying to ensure that people would see them to be fighting. Now, at a point in time, the president himself said that, and it has been indicated over here, no one was going to be allowed to work in the mining, in the forest reserves. Prior to that, the country had decided through a policy that in all the forest reserves in Ghana, only 2% would be allowed for exploration. And if after exploration something reasonable was found, you had to go through a rigorous process to be able to mine. To the extent that if you impacted 1 meter of the forest, you have to create 3 meters of a forest. You have to replace it with 3 meters of forest. So you 1 meter impacted, you do 3 times that impacted area. You didn't have to set up your production equipment in the forest. Everything must come out of the forest. So there were some stringent processes there. I think what we spoke about was that instead of we just using policy guidelines, let's put it in an airline so that it will become, you can try against it. Government comes against their own promise of nobody should be allowed to work in the forest area. Says that now you can go through LI 2462, you can go through the forest. In fact, you don't even need forest entry permit. The forest entry permit was a good thing, even though it was abused by an individual who went there. Because the forest entry permit had been there, and there were, in fact, before, in the time that I was there, before you got a forest entry permit from the Forestry Commission, it was wahala. My friend Afari would just have a battle with you before, if they found it very useful, they would grant that. You will recall that, and in Professor Frimpong Boateng's report, that there was a point when we had to withdraw the license of one operator. I think that was where Major Mahama's incident occurred. We had to withdraw his license because he had a permit to do exploration, but he had started mining, which was against the law. And this is why I find it difficult to understand why President Akufo-Addo would say that Akonta mining was not doing anything illegal. Akonta mining, the Minerals Commission and the ministry have just said he has the exploration license, but not the production license. He hasn't got the license to mine. Yet he was mining, but yes, he was not illegal. And this pronouncement would come from the highest man on the land. I find it quite ridiculous. I mean, so I think we lost the battle, and I've written, it's been published in some scientific magazines, that some of the challenges, in fact, most of the challenges come from political involvement in this Galamsey thing. And it's become very clear. It is this government, if you look at our history, I haven't heard any government that operated that has such a list of people mining, doing illegal activities from the same government. Some of them actively, not just mere political apparatchiks, not just mere party functionaries, but they are active government members, having these concessions and using them wrongly. I'm not saying as a Ghanaian, if you had concession, there was anything wrong, but if you had concession, you should use the law. You should operate within the laws. That's one of the reasons why I like President Mahama's position of, one, not going to allow his ministers to even acquire state properties, let alone allow them to do Galamsey. If you want to do small-scale mining as a minister or as an MC, go away, go and do it, and so that you'll be open to the law. But you cannot be part of his government and be doing those things. So it's a flip-floppy thing. One day you say this, and another day you say that. You have a party that comes out to say that the party needs money. So the excavators that we have taken, we should sell them, we should fly some of them, and then we ourselves must be involved in the mining activity ourselves. You have a party whose MC would go and say that, look, these days you need to have a Chinese group to come and work for you, that is the way you can work and make some money for yourself. So these things are the creation of government, lack of leadership, the absence of clear leadership in trying to fight a menace. The challenge is also of employment. People who do not, if I completed the nursing training school, and then it takes me 4 years before I get posted to a hospital. If I were a man with the muscle of mine, and I came from a place where, or even if I didn't come from that place, I could travel to a place where you can just go start digging and making money, I will go. So when you do a survey of people who are involved, there are quite a number of educated people, some with master's degree, some with all kinds of degrees, and they are there because they don't have the other option. They don't have those even who have gone to do professional things like nursing, like teaching. They have to wait, and that wait period, what should they do? Their parents have supported them, and after 4 years they should still be supported. So I think we need a comprehensive approach, and a comprehensive approach would require much less human intervention, and that's what President Mahama is proposing, that when he comes, he will recategorize mining. In fact, mining is the only activity. As always, we say SME, small, medium, and whatever. And mining, we have SL, small scale and large scale. But if you go to the field, you see that some of the operators there are not small scale. There can't be any small scale miner who can buy excavators. One excavator, a new one, or even a used one, will be not less than $300,000. I don't see how any community small member will be able to buy that. So, and then you could see the extent of the impact of land, the space he has. You can only see it as a medium scale. If you cannot compare it to, let's say, Anglo Gold Ashanti or Newmont or Goldfields, you can see it as a medium scale. So we are going to recategorize the scales of mining. And the reason for this categorization is that it makes it possible for the institutions to manage them. We are able to better control or regulate the large-scale mines, because in Ghana we have only 16. There are only 16 large-scale mines. So if something happened where there's somebody could go there, a ministry or a minerals commission person could go there. But we have dotted small-scale mines in this country. In fact, in my own western region, our study indicates about 7,000 spots. No, of miners, 7,000. So how can Minerals Commission even visit 7,000 sites? So once you recategorize, you can get about 30 of the medium scale ones, and then you set out special requirement. Every medium scale mine must show that he has a geologist, must employ a geologist, must employ a mining engineer, an environmental person, in addition to his own administration, because it must be done as if it were a big scale, cut down to small scale. That will be a requirement, and we don't lack these technical people. UMAT, University of Mines and Technology in Takwa, produces a lot of these technicians. We have KNUST. You have the University of the Northern University, UDS. You have the Sunyani University, UNE, this University of Environment and Natural Resources. They all produce mining experts, so they can be employed there to support them. And then after that, you use technology also to ensure that the equipment that are given, they are geofenced in a space where they cannot move, and we've tested that. You can have technology where the excavator that really causes the major challenge cannot move from outside the concession that has been given you. So they can't go to places that they have not been granted. If they did, it will be seen from far away.
Look, you have to wrap up for me.
So I think the failure has been failure of leadership. It's quite clear. There have been flip-flopping promises, and then their own people leading the charge. If my constituency chairman, let's say, is a galamsey, how can I stop the constituency chairman? So if your regional chairman is into it, how can you not make law to support him? And that is where we are now. And I think it is not, the fight is difficult, but it is not impossible.
Thank you very much, Doc. Dr. Tony Obing is a spokesperson for the NDC when it comes to mining issues. Let me do a couple of comments you're sending to us via Facebook. Komala Ganya says, any Ghanaian who is still thinking of voting for these people, in spite of the way they have destroyed our waters and messed up our economy, then that person does not love this country. He doesn't care about the future of their children. Real Ghana is also joining us, saying good morning. Sena, this is okay, I think he's talking about the SEC. He says this is unacceptable EC. These political parties, apart from NDC, MPP, PNC, and CPP, the rest are non-existent and should not be recognized and considered a political party. Prohibit all these mushrooming parties and individuals with no nationwide representation to be stopped immediately. In fact, this week, the Daily Graphic actually reported that 39 persons are interested in contesting for the presidency. Yusuf Mohammed is also joining us. He says, okay, you see, Sena, not only Galamsey, MPP has lost the battle in fighting anything that destroys the country. From their conduct, one should be able to say they never seek power to serve the people. This government must be kicked out of office in the upcoming elections. Francis Gordon says, what sense does it make when we destroy the whole systemic ecological situation of the land with illegal mining for money and later not getting food and water to sustain life? Illegal mining activities is a threat to our very existence. Thank you very much for that comment. Bedu Kwame says, we know that it's the government and his entourage that's behind the Galamsey. What next? There's Raslos, Sena. Okay, Raslos, good morning to you. Thank you very much. These are some of the comments that we're getting from you who are joining us on Facebook. Keep those comments coming. I'll read some more as we go along in the show. Let's take Adjo's thought. Adjo.
Good morning to you and your viewers, Sena. But before I start, let me quickly say good morning to a couple of people. The young lady who did my makeup this morning, her name is Karen Jam Glam on TikTok. So on TikTok, I'm a bit known. So I got Karen to come and do my makeup for me. Please patronize her and check her out on TikTok. She's very young, but hardworking, dedicated, and she's time conscious. She was at my gate at the exact time that I gave her. So please follow her on TikTok and then patronize her. Again, from here, I will be attending a program at Bauleche. The NDC has opened a manifesto help desk. So, you know, after our manifesto launch, we have done sectorial press briefings, and now we have added help desk to it. We are beginning around Bauleche, where we'll put up a desk. They are there as we speak now, and I'll be going there from here. So people who have questions concerning our manifesto, whether it's about the youth manifesto or the general manifesto or the main manifesto, you can go there and ask questions, because we understand that it is not everybody who will watch television or listen to the radio or follow some of these things, but these policies are made for the people. So we are trying to reach out to the local people and the general people around in our neighborhoods so that we can explain the policies to them. And this initiative is led by Mr. Shafiq Mohammed. So I'll be going there. That said, on the issue of Galamsey, for me as a young person, it is very worrying for me. And as my co-panelists have already, explained, when we talk about Galamsey, it didn't just start from today. And I disagree completely with the arguments that when we talk about Galamsey, we should put a nationalistic, I understand that we should put a nationalistic face to it, but when we say that we should try to discuss it without party politics or partisan politics, I do not agree with that assertion. Why do I say that? Because when the president, before he became president, stood on a stage and told Ghanaians that I am going to protect Ghana, when he said that he was going to put his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey, he did not say that as a dancehall artist. He wasn't a reggae artist when he said that. He was a politician. And so if we say that, oh, we shouldn't put politics into the whole discussion, people have come to have power to do certain things through politics. It is because of party politics that we have elected certain people and given them certain powers which they have decided to use against us. And so we cannot say that, we cannot pretend and try to say that because we want to be nice, we shouldn't put politics in the whole discussion. We must point it, we must call a spade a spade. And then we have pointed out that we understand that Galamsey did not start from today, and my co-panelist has explained and differentiated between what Galamsey is and small-scale mining is. And from time immemorial, even colonial days, we had people try to mine illegally, and that has been, you know, seen in our legal framework from historical times. Laws that has been promulgated in an attempt to stop people from plundering our environment. And so we have seen certain ordinances that were passed by even the colonial governments to try to stop the plundering of these state resources. And so you have to be part of a big organization or a bigger company to be able to mine properly. Until the PNDC law 153 came into place, that was somewhere in the 1986. That is when people, the local people, were allowed, like mining in this country was liberalized a bit for us to partake in it. So from that time, we have been interested in making sure that the local citizen also has a share in the resources of this country, and not just in gold mining, even in petroleum and other ways. That is why we have the local content laws, making sure that even all Ghanaians or Ghanaians who are interested in such fields will benefit. This has not come, you know, without any challenges. We all see the challenges that has come with it, and we've tried from time to time, government to government, to promulgate laws to be able to regulate some of these activities, knowing that if we do not regulate such activities, we are endangering ourselves. Now, the laws have come forward to see the promulgation of the PNDC Law 218, which was supposed to help regularize small-scale mining, because at the time, even though the law had been liberalized, you could not engage in small-scale mining. It was still illegal. So for us to be able to protect our environment, the government saw that we needed to enact, Parliament saw that we needed to enact a law to be able to regularize small-scale mining, so that the local people who will want to engage or partake in mining of the resources of the country can do so well without putting all of us in danger. In 2006, we consolidated all these laws, and then we saw the Minerals and Mining Act, Act 703, which was later amended to the Act 900 and Act 995 in 2015 and 2019 respectively. These laws were supposed to do specific things. They created specific offenses for people who flouted the laws that governed mining. And then it wasn't perfect, but we still had these laws that were regulating that sector. So you couldn't go into these areas that you wanted to mine without the proper license. And the terms and conditions were properly outlined in the law to tell everyone what and what you needed to be granted a license, and how your license will be revoked should you flout any of the laws. You know, this law provided for many things, you know, among these things that I have mentioned. Fast forward, His Excellency Nana Addo comes into power, and he says that he'll put his presidency on the line to fight. And I always say, as it's in the nature of the NPP to always, you know, pretend to fight a problem. And we have seen it in other areas when it comes to even the issue of corruption and how the Special Prosecutor's Office was set up. And in the end, the very person that was put there to help fight corruption was chased out because he was trying to do his job. It is in that same way that this Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, to my mind, was set up. So, because tell me why an interministerial committee for illegal mining will be set up. They operate for 3 years, and for these 3 years that they operated, the record shows that about $30 million was allocated to them quarterly, and about 10 million Ghana cedis was used on Galamsey dialogue. To dialogue on Galamsey, they used 10 million Ghana cedis. So besides the plundering of our environment, there is also the monetary aspect, where they have not even been able to account for all the money that has gone into this so-called Interministerial Committee for Illegal Mining. And I often say, it is as though to survive in the NPP, you must have some sort of corruption history or criminal history. If not, then you must be able to bend over backwards. You must be very malleable, because we have seen how they dealt with Professor Frimpong Boateng in his attempts to try to solve a problem which they themselves put him to to do. So they set up this committee, add a couple of ministries, Minerals Commission, Ministry for Lands. They put the local government, chieftaincy, religious affairs, and they put all these people together, create a secretariat, and then pump money into that place. And then what's the reason for which this thing is set up? We even become worse off. And so we have people who are, you see, the problem is, even if there were no other people mining and the government is not able to get hold of them to control the situation, that is a different matter. Here we are being told that we have people with whom we have entrusted ourselves, our nation, our resources. They have turned around to so to me, it is the betrayal. As a young person, it is the betrayal for me. And so you are on our water bodies and our river banks mining, exposing us to mercury. And you see the records and the research shows that these mining areas, actually, you see people with what's that kind of ulcer? Burley ulcer, and then mothers are giving birth to deformed children. And so you see, that is why I often say that as a young person, if you're watching me today, you must be interested in the politics of this country. You must be interested in everything that is happening in this country. Because why? As we sit here, my generation, we are at risk of giving birth to babies with defects. As I sit here, we are at risk. The more we are drinking the water, and even if we say we will not drink the water, we are going to drink imported water. We cannot live in this country without eating bananas, oranges. We cannot live here without eating the plantain and the cassava. And this contaminated water is being used to water these crops. And so no matter what you do, you will not escape. And one of my seniors said something. He said, just like pollution is local, but its impact is global. And so you may sit at home and say that I do not want to be interested in the politics of the country, or whatever they do does not concern me, but we are being poisoned. It is one thing if you just drink and die. I think it is easier. But where you are going to give birth to children with defects, without limbs, without, some parts, without genitalia, and then that brings about, compounds your economic problem that we're already facing. I think that is very problematic. It is why we need to keep talking about such issues. Now, you have set up an interministerial committee on illegal mining. You call Professor Frimpong Boateng. According to him, it was the chief of staff who asked him to put together a report on the work that they have done. The report is an indictment on this government. And I keep asking myself, in part of the report, we are being told that the president issued a directive that some licenses should be revoked and new licenses shouldn't be given for people to enter into the forest reserve. And some people argue that it is the LI 2462 that has allowed people to enter our forest reserve. But the report is also telling us that as of 2018, and that is way before the passing of the LI was passed in 2022. But in 2018, the report is telling us that about 47 forest reserves had already been given out for illegal mining purposes. It has already been given out. And then is the president telling us that he was so powerless that he could give a directive that were flouted by his own appointees, because his own appointees were in this forest. This tells me that even the president is complicit in this matter. And what I cannot even understand is the fact that as this report was prepared and given to the president, who is supposed to be a human rights lawyer, he sat on the reports and did not bring it out until the report was leaked. This is the kind of man we have as president, the person who is supposed to protect human rights. Because, like I always say, this is tantamount to human rights abuse. You cannot say that just because you want to mine some resources and make money out of it, then you put other people's lives and health at risk. You understand me? And so for a person who is supposed to be the father of the nation, after seeing a report like this, I mean, you ought not to sit on it. You are supposed to do something about it. Could it be that the president himself is complicit in this whole mining issue that we are having in this country, that he could not even be firm in his fights, in his so-called fights against Galamsey. I say that this government, since it came, like one of our viewers rightly sent to you, they have lost the battle in all fronts. And we cannot say that we will discuss this matter without bringing in politics, because since the time of Nkrumah, we have seen how our river bodies looked like. In fact, when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama left power in 2016, we still saw how the River Pra looked like. We can measure the turbidity of the water. Everybody have fought, but we are saying that in this current government, the destruction of our water bodies, the destruction of our environment has reached its peak and its highest apogee. And that is why we are calling this government out. And so we must name them and shame them. We cannot say all governments. We have to say the NPP governments led by His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Baobia. They have made us worse and put our life at risk. Today, there are many diseases. And even what pains me is that they are not even able to even strengthen the health sector, to even take care of the people they are making sick. You get it? And so everything, we are the mercy of, you know, these people just destroying us. Now, as lawyer rightly said, when we talk about Galamsey, they try to bring the NDC in and say that, oh, there's even a video of Mr. Kweku Boahen telling Galamseyers that when the NDC comes to power, we are going to... What they refuse to tell the people is that before the NPP came into power, there were people who were mining legally. And like they have distinguished, there's a difference between Galamseyers and small-scale miners who were properly trained and regularized on how to mine properly and how to even reclaim some part of the soil. So there were people who were properly licensed and properly mining. When you came, you realized that you wanted to put your own people into the mining sector, because part in Yesika, what you did was to pretend to have placed a ban, a 1-year ban on mining, and then you sent all these people home. And then you took their licenses and their concessions and gave it to your people who do not have training. And that is how come we are having our water bodies as turbid as we have it now. And so if Mr. Kweku Boahen goes to these people who are not Galamseyers but small-scale miners and tell them that you need to vote for us because we regulated the sector better, you come to us and tell us that Mr. Kweku Boahen was telling them that they will allow them to engage in Galamsey. That is not true. Those were small-scale miners whose licenses and concessions had been taken away from them unfairly. And he was speaking to them that if the NDC comes into power, we were going to look at these concessions again. So when it comes to the issue of Galamsey, they should not drag the NDC into this whole conversation. They should just agree and admit that they have failed the fight again. In fact, they weren't fighting because they will be fighting against themselves. They themselves have turned around to plunder the environments that we entrusted into them, and they pretended to be fighting. They have lost the fight against themselves when it comes to Galamsey. Now, when it comes to issues of Galamsey, the only way we can bring His Excellency John Dramani Mahama into the conversation, as rightly said, is what we are coming to do for the environment. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, in his manifesto, have stated that when he is voted into power come 2025, he is going to put together what we call the Gold Board. The Gold Board is going to help the other ministries that are already in this sector to regulate this small-scale mining, and then continue to teach them how to reclaim the lands even after mining. Also, he has said that he will put together the Blue Water Initiative and the Tree for Life Initiative. And by this, it means that we are going to plant some trees, specific trees. That is, he mentioned the rubber tree and then the cotton tree. Why are we going to use the rubber and cotton? We are using this rubber and cotton tree because these trees are able to help reclaim the land. They are able to take up toxins from the soil. And with my little knowledge in agriculture and science, like from the basic level, we know that to be able to reclaim a land and be able to take out toxins such as lead and all this mercury from the land, it is best to do it with plants. And we will usually use local or indigenous crops, or crops that are indigenous around that area. In some areas, they use the fern and other eucalyptus and other types of plants. And so His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is saying that he's going to liaise with the necessary technical people who will be able to help us reclaim these lands through these plants. And we also know that the rubber tree and the cotton tree, they have what we call the kind of tap root that is able to anchor into the soil horizon, allows the plants to drain out all these toxins from the soil. We're going to engage in other things that will be able to help us clean our water, regularize mining, and make it proper so that the local people can benefit from it, but not to the detriment of our environment. This is what we are going to do in the mining sector.
Thank you. Thank you. It's funny how your beautiful smile vanishes immediately. Start talking about Nanado. We will come to Dr. David Percy shortly to conclude that discussion for us. But before that, a couple of comments that have been shared with us. If you're just joining us, the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, we thank you very much for your time. We are live from the studios of Pan-African Television. This is the Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah Studios. And we are live on the Pan-African Television. We are also live on Facebook, Pan-African Television, YouTube, Pan-African Television. We are live on radio and Radio Gold, many other affiliate stations across the country. A few comments you're sending to us. Let me start with Kojo Chumboafo, who says, why are we surprised that Akufo-Addo has lost the battle to fight Galamsey? Wound to me. The Ashanti Regional Chairman, Kate Jemfua, the women's organizer of the MPP, former environment minister, and his son, among others in the hierarchy of the ruling party, are all engaging in Galamsey. Also allegedly mentioned are the former general secretary of the MPP, John Boyd, MPP parliamentary candidate for Joabing Sampine, the MCU of Kumasi, and a whole gamut of other top MPP officials. How do you collapse this unbelievable melee when the main actors all sit in cabinet? My thoughts on this matter is all mining activities must be banned for a while until the forests and rivers recover. Nature will respond and restore, but we need to stop the mining activities because the criminals who will mine will always cross the line. Clearly, as far as the current government is concerned, Party Nyansika is more important than good governance. Thank you very much for that comment. Musa Abatwa says, Sena, the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government's supposed commitment to fighting Galamsey nothing but lip service. It's glaringly evident that some MPP kingpins are deeply involved in this illicit activity, making the government's efforts a complete sham. From the MPP women's organizers to the Ashanti Regional Chairman, the Menfi East parliamentary candidate, and even the Western Regional Minister, key figures within the MPP are repeatedly found engaging in or linked to illegal mining. This government has lost all credibility in attacking Galamsey as their actions clearly contradict their words. Thank you, Musa Abatwa, for that. Let me see if I can do a few more before I go to Doc. This one is for Papa Bisiu in Accra. Says, okay. All names associated with Galamsey are seeking our votes and therefore going around sharing cash from that illegal gain, like Horace Ekwewusi in Central Region and others, resulting in deaths and dangerous diseases like kidney failure from contaminated waters for our brothers, sisters, and children must be voted against in the coming general elections. And that's the interesting part, that some of the names that are mentioned are actually parliamentary candidates who are campaigning for votes. Question is, what will happen to them? That's the question every Ghanaian has to answer. There's also Alhaji Amsa in Pigfarm who says, good morning. To be told, President Nanado has failed the good people of this country big time. This was a president who told us that he was ready to put his presidency on the line in the fight against Galamsey. And it is the same president who sent to Parliament LI 2462 to be passed to allow mining to go on in our forest reserves. Let's get this right. In the first place, there was nothing like fighting Galamsey in this country. And when we complain, the majority chief whip, who comes out to tell us that the NDC even polluted the waters more than them, is so irresponsible and shameful on his part. My brother, in all this, Mr. President has decided to remain quiet without saying anything to the nation. God have mercy. I just wanted to quickly go back to the Fourth Estate report and just read to you briefly some of the things they said about the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party. It says, months before the government scrapped the guidelines that limited mining in forest reserves, in November 2022, Akonta Mining Company Limited was actively felling trees and digging in the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve. And the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources declared the company's operation illegal. The Office of the Special Prosecutor is currently investigating allegations of illegal mining against the company. According to records at the ORC, The company has two shareholders, Bernard Bosi Akoda, Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, who is popularly known as Chairman Wuntumi, and one Kwame Entry. Akonta Mining, which was registered in 2010 for mining and exploration, applied to mine in the town of Nimri Forest, where it is already accused of mining illegally on August 25, 2022. This was just a month after LI 2462 was gazetted. The Mineral Commission has forwarded the company's application to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources for possible approval. Without the regulatory permits, the company mined with impunity until investigations by Joint Uses Erastus Aridonko exposed the destructive activities in the reserve. According to the Minerals Commission's data, Chairman Wuntumi currently has two other mining leases in the Amenfi district. Apart from Akonta Mining, Wuntumi also has a 50% shareholding in another company. Is it Akos Jumo Mining Limited, which has several mining and prospective leases in the Minerals Commission database. Doc.
Thank you very much, Sena. I think the recent report about difficulties that the Ghana Water Company was having with extracting water for treatment for use has set us about what we do very well, which is to talk a lot and go around in circles and do practically very little. Maybe the issue of water has brought this thing up because we know from what the scientists tell us that slowly but surely we are poisoning ourselves. I mean, from the vegetables, from the fish, the food that we eat, the water that we drink. And this is because of a failure of governance in a key sector. Okay. But I like to situate this thing in the broader context of land use and its management. And by land, I'm talking about the soil, the subsoil, the waters, the air, the flora, the fauna, plants and animals, which are essential to the existence and survival of our species. And it is at the heart of every economy, land. But what you see here is that starting from the resistance to the local government reforms that Nkrumah and the CPP introduced, this was before independence, there has been fierce resistance, and practically every regime, every party seeking power has failed to address the land issue. Now, the problems we see in relation to water have their roots in this absence of a comprehensive approach to this key resource without which we cannot exist. It affects, the instant issue is water, but agriculture, housing, industry. I mean, it is not possible to engage in any economic activity without land. Yet, that sector has suffered from a, you might say, a lack of attention. And regime after regime after regime ignores it. So we dance around the issue, it blows up in this area, and then we go about firefighting. When what is really required is a comprehensive approach to the issue of land. Now, if we address it this way, then we'll find out that there are all kinds of interests around the issue, stakeholders, call them. Now, what is required is, first of all, an understanding of the location of this key resource in our lives, and then the involvement of all the stakeholders in fashioning out arrangements that work for us in a manner that is sustainable, that does not lead to imbalances, that does not poison us. Okay, now if you look at even the sectors, I mean the ministries, you find out that I'm sure there's an element that is covered by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, right? Yes. There's an area covered by the Ministry of Agriculture. There's land and natural resources. Housing, works and housing, okay. Transport. I mean, but it's such is the far-reaching importance of this key resource, without which we cannot exist, that the inattention is just mind-boggling. Okay. Now, in the 50s, the CPP's decision to to bring about local government reforms touching on land, okay, fused with the failure of the CPP to implement a promise that they had made before the 1954 elections to raise cocoa prices. And that led to agitation that, Nkrumah and the CPP wanted to take over people's land. And that led very directly to the founding of the NLM. Okay, of course, the NLM will eventually lead to the overthrow of Nkrumah. But it appears that the eternal lesson that has been learned from that, those developments in our history, is that land is discussed but never addressed. I have personally been in many fora where it has come up. For instance, land and the issues about its insecurity is a principal barrier to the development of agriculture. It's a principal barrier to the development of small businesses. Is the reason why you have a lot of slum development, slum formation. Yet, we continue to dance around it. You may even find people who ought to know better saying that, we don't have a land problem. Land, there's plenty of land. But if I were to give you a piece of land for say half a year or even a year, will you invest in building a well on it so that you can hold water and use it in relation to the needs of your crop? No. So, for instance, one of the monumental displays of this collective incompetence was captured in this policy of one village, one dam. Now, if farmers had security of tenure, if they could use land for a certain period, determined, secure, okay, they would invest in measures, in facilities to hold water. Okay, I'm sure that from this week on, people will be talking a bit more about the recent announcement about, or is it announcement, observation that we have drought.
Yes.
And that there's a looming issue of food shortages. Okay. Now, governments in the past have tried to go around this issue with the development of large-scale irrigation projects, but which are only underused because usually they are confined to dry season farming. But really, the solution that is required should enable farmers where they are to conserve and use water for their agricultural needs. I mean, this is something that's hiding in plain sight. But consistently, we go around in circles, we skirt the issue, and we invest a lot of time and capital in solutions that are bound to fail. So I'll say that, look, we didn't intend it, but this crisis offers us an opportunity to, as it were, go back to the basics and address the matter of land in all its aspects. I mean, you can't have an economy without land. Yet, I mean, the number of conflicting legislations, ordinances, laws, etc. It's mind-boggling. And we cannot continue in this, on this path. Those are my thoughts on this matter now.
Doc, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Dr. David Percy, a student of history and politics. Now, within the context of the fact that cocoa farms are fighting with galamsees, you will understand why he's raising the matter of land issue. It's a big issue, frankly, because this week, one of the videos that have trended is a man who was gleefully cutting a cocoa tree, and they had a camera on him. It's been trending on social media. And the comments he was making suggest that we'll tell you, we'll justify what Dr. Percy is saying. The land is theirs. It's not for government to tell them what to use the land for. Cocoa trees are going down for not only cocoa trees, rubber trees have gone. There are many farmlands that have gone in the place of galamsey. So galamsey takes over, everybody gives out their land, or even the farmer clears his land and becomes a miner. So these are issues that we need to discuss a bit more comprehensively to find solutions to it. So we're just discussing the issue of the resurgence in mining, the impact on Ghana Water Company Limited, and also on our environment. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll turn to what is ahead of us, the elections.
He has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He's the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He's the Redeemer.
To the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Of course, we are live from the side for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah Studios of Pan-African Television. Before we start talking about the register, a few more things, comments that came up on this issue of Galamsey. This is Dennis Yakwete who says the complicity of the political class is the reason the Galamsey mess continues to subsist with the current momentum. I just can't figure it. How those monstrous machines used for the said exercise are so obvious for even Sebi, the blind to see. And yet our authorities mandated to check this are helpless. For the EC, it is not only ridiculous to even contemplate that the likes of Jean Mensah once headed the IEA and did not only take on the previous EC but also agitated for electoral reforms will be in charge of EC today and will be reluctant to yield to sensible demands to make the EC transparent and accountable to ensure free and fair elections. It is just a matter of time. That's Dennis Yakwete. Thank you very much for that comment. Okay. There's Tafina who says Sena Galamsey has defeated this government. Finito. That's the only comment he sends. Azure says, okay. Imoro Abdullahi from Bongo says, good morning to you and your panelists, especially to Dr. Tony Obing. Let's give President Nanado a platform on this Galamsey matter, and I can assure you that he will make statements and pronouncements that will undermine any investigation. Thank you. There's also this one that's coming from Stephen Penn in Wa, who says Nanado has lost the fight against Galamsey because his top government officials, party members and financiers are all engaged in the Galamsey menace, like the Mexican government is finding it difficult to fight the drug menace. Nanado put his presidency on the line and should have resigned by now because he has lost the fight miserably. Nanado, please respect the constitution and do the needful. Resign now. Stephen, thank you for that comment. And then there's also, okay. Let us also remember that Akufo-Addo said in opposition, he who wants to provide jobs for his youth is not going to ban Galamsey. That NDC was lying against him, so he's doing just what he meant. That putting his presidency on the line is just another deception. Komala Genya, thank you. And finally, this is Edie Gideon Montari, who says, my regards to your respected panelists, whenever one is chewing the fingers of a monkey, must take a second look at his own again. Whatever goes around comes around. This government is just an audio one with full of empty rhetorics, negativity, and all manner of possibilities. As such, all well-meaning Ghanaians must join hands with the NDC calling for a forensic audit of the voters registered by the EC going into this year's general elections on December 7. It will take our collective efforts to recapture, reset, rebuild, and transform the Ghana we all wanted it. Ghana is at the crossroads. I'll start the register matter with Ajua. The voters register. The NDC is asking for a forensic audit of the register. The EC says no, you will not get that. But clearly, the EC at a press conference admits there are issues that need to be resolved. Ajua, you have 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yes.
When it comes to the issue of the EC, I think I can speak on this matter for a very long time. Why? Because it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. Sena, I think that it is not for nothing that we say that Ghana is a beacon of democracy in this Africa that we are. It is because we have been able to manage power transition from one government to the other. And this transition of power has been midwifed by a very important institution, that is the EC. And so when we talk about the politics of this country, when we talk about the democracy of this country, we cannot exhaust the topic without explaining or outlining the critical role that the Electoral Commission plays in this whole thing. And so it is important that that office is manned by a person who is empathetic, a person who is critical and ethical and very competent and have the will, is willing to do the right thing, because I believe that the least mistake and such a person can throw the entire country into chaos. And because I am a woman also, it bothers me, because whenever there is civil unrest or a war, I mean, children are most affected, followed by women. And for the men, they can run and they can fight, but then what about us? And so when we see an EC that seems to not take certain things into consideration when taking certain decisions, and when we talk about them, it is seen as if we are trying to bastardize the institution. It's painful. Nobody has tried to bastardize the EC, although it has engaged in many things that ordinarily, you know, we shouldn't countenance such in our body politics. But we have been very understanding and accommodating of this particular EC. She's not the first to have, you know, sat in this office. We've had the likes of Mr. Aferijan, Dr. Aferijan, who have overseen, like, you know, many elections before now. Madame Charlotte Osei, who did an excellent job, whose, you know, way of being pushed out of office is still questionable on my mind. And how Madame Jane Mensah was appointed by this government. In the midst of all these, okay, we still see the EC acting in ways that are very questionable. And then whenever you want to talk about this issue, we do not have the PRO of the EC. I don't know if they have a PRO, but we have the governing party always speaking for the EC. And the EC is supposed to be the referee of this election. And so if I am going into a competition with you, and then we are all stakeholders in this election, I see problems with the way the referee is conducting herself, but you see nothing wrong with it. And so besides the EC telling us that although she has 24-hour surveillance, we still managed to get some BVDs to vanish from EC's custody is problematic, and suddenly they are finding them. The EC's way of making sure that the people of SAO, okay, are disenfranchised is problematic, and we are still looking at what she's going to do about that. Beyond that, there have been many other things that has happened. The recent one is this provisional voters register, the PVR that the NDC had requested for. And then the EC wrote to the NDC to bring some gadgets for the PVR to be handed over, to be given to us. According to Dr. Omane Boama, who is the Director for Elections, we submitted this gadget. The PVR was not given to us. In fact, the PVR was not given to us until, I think, a day to exhibition, which was contrary to their own CI 91. You know, so they were supposed to give us their PVR. And you see, sometimes we say that when we complain about the fact that you're conflicted and you're trying to rig election, sometimes it is not that you have done it per se, but the way you have conducted yourself has created that impression. And sometimes that impression or perception is more dangerous than even the acts occurring itself. And so you are aware of the daunting tax that is on various political parties. We are looking at about 38,000 polling stations distributing these PVRs, and we have to go through the register to be sure that, you know, we are satisfied with the register. And as a major stakeholder that we are, the NDC, we deserve to have this register to look through so that there is peace. But the EC refused to do that, and we literally have to drag the EC by the foot before we are given this PVR. And then we discover that there are a lot of mistakes in this register. We are seeing dead people in the register. We are seeing illegal votes transfer. And initially, when we raised this issue, the NPP said they had not seen anything. The other political parties have not seen anything, and they kept defending the EC. Now, EC has no, you know, she has no option than to admit that there are mistakes in the voters register after the indictment of the Pusiga EC director. Now, we all see that the issues that are being raised by the NDC are actually genuine, and there are problems with this voters register. And when we talk about elections, everybody talks about we want peace, we want peace, we want peace. And I've heard a few people rightly state that there can never be peace without justice. If we want peace, there are things that we need to put in place to bring peace. If I want to eat banku, I know I have to add cassava dough to corn dough, put it on fire and stir it. That is how I will get banku. You do not peel plantain and put on fire and say you want to get banku. It doesn't work like that. And so if we want peace, there is a recipe that we need to stick by. That is ensuring that all stakeholders are satisfied to a large degree, that the election that we're about to conduct is free and fair. And so all we are saying is that based on this indictment of the Pusiga EC director, it is evidence that there are mistakes in the PVR. We need to sit with EC. We need to conduct a forensic audit into the register so that all major stakeholders are satisfied that this election is going to be free and fair. We have said that. We know what we did when we came into power. And the NPP has also they've also had the opportunity to be in power for 8 years, so we all, so together 16, we can compare the records. We know that we have performed better. We know that the people of Ghana are yearning for change, and so it is our duty to ensure that the will of the people are not subverted through some dubious means or some collusions that we are thinking is between the government, the certain government and the EC. So if the EC is saying that she's credible or whatever work she's doing is what it is, then I don't see any problem in asking for a forensic audit into the register. That is all we want to see, because we are determined to ensure that the votes of the people are protected and the will of the people come to a fruition on December 7th, 2025.
Thank you very much. A few comments on Facebook. This one, Kofi Simon says, Kwesi Pratt said years ago on this platform that Galamsey must be stopped entirely, but who will listen to him? Here we are now. Our chiefs are behind these things that are going on. There's also Nipenia. Okay, this is to lawyer Pierre Dankwa. Says your submission are always on point. I don't understand why you didn't join the NDC, as you are the only member of the Movement for Change who consistently provides constructive input without attacking the NDC. You always focus on the issues at hand. Lawyer, an invite to you.
I do. The last time I met Adjoa, I talked to him, and Adjoa came after me. But what, like I always say, for me, it's not about the party; it's about Ghana, and that will continue to be my focus. See, the issue about the EC for me is the same issue like Galamsey. Lack of leadership, lack of commitment, a clear. You see, our country has been taken over by charlatans. They have no principle, they have no value. They've placed the interest, their personal interest, the interest of their political parties ahead of the country's interest. And it's the same attitude that, the same attitude that is plaguing our environment, the same attitude is also plaguing our political space. Because per the terms of our constitution, it is a duty of the president to appoint members onto the EC. You understand? And when the president is making those appointments, he ought to be guided, or the burden on him is a burden that was born out of the oath himself he took to be faithful to Ghana. And so when you have respect and you are faithful, or you have some level of fidelity to that burden, then you won't undermine or create a situation by appointment which makes it practically impossible for the EC to fulfill her terms, her job, by appointing people who are perceived to be or to have political coloring, not necessarily being MPP. But if you appoint anybody who has political coloring, then what you are doing is that you are creating a situation where it is practically impossible for the EC to fulfill its mandate. What was the mandate? That mandate is not only to deliver an election which is free and fair, but also to deliver an election which is perceived to be free and fair. But right now, charlatans have taken over. Take the New Patriotic Party. Charlatans have taken over. Now we have people who don't even believe in the ideals and values of the NPP. And they are in the NPP, they don't believe in those ideals. They've managed to get a chance to lead. And they are delivering a governance which is adverse not only to Ghana, but adverse to the purpose for which the NPP themselves were formed. So let me give you just some few examples. When you take the MP's constitution, go to article, what's it called? Article, the aims and objectives, article 2:11, on the issue on Galamsey. They are saying that one of their aims and objectives for why they formed as a political party is to try and win power to do what? To protect the environment from degradation and repair the damage done to the environment by wasteful and improper exploitation of our land, forest, marine and freshwater resources. That's what they said. And so when they're deciding as to who to sponsor to take power, they should be guided by this principle. But right now the party is full by charlatans. No respect for values. You don't even know why they are there. Also, when you take the constitution, go to the same purpose, 28. It says to develop and maintain close fraternal relations with all political parties in West Africa and the world at large, which share the liberal democratic ideals of the party. What are those liberal democratic ideals? A firm belief that those who govern must do the same with the consent of those who govern. And elections is the main thing which we show our consent. I was talking about social contracts in the first place. When you are entering into any contract, one key element is consent. You understand? So when we sign that social contract with our government, we give our consent when we vote. You understand? And we know that consent will be vitiated by either undue influence or by duress. Undue influence is when you do anything that seeks to reg. When I say reg in terms of, and then the duress is when you use force. You understand? Then consent is vitiated. Now, clearly, see the NPP, when you hear them speak, Nkoyi is but will win by strategy. Nkoyi, but will win by strategy. And so, in that strategy, so they appoint the people into the, what's it called, EC. There's a situation where the EC, in fact, she's working from a position of negative. Because already, I'm telling you already, from the last election, the figures changing to what happened when we were registering, what happened when people were transferring their votes. And this exercise, the BVD is getting lost. This exercise, see, when we say come and show us, what's it called, come and exhibit. I've heard arguments say that because we do mistake, that's why we exhibit. No. It's like a lawyer drafting a contract. When you draft a contract, you send to your client that, listen, this is a draft review. What I tell your client is that so far as you are concerned, you've done a perfect job. It's not as if you are not allowed to make mistakes for your clients to determine the mistakes and correct you. So when you send the what's it called the voters register to us, so far as we are concerned, it is a perfect register. It's a perfect register. It's not, you are not allowed to make mistakes for us to spend our time to find the mistakes and start a battle with you. Because when that happens, what you are doing is that you are even then confirming the huge doubts the people of Ghana have in your ability as EC to deliver an election which is perceived to be free and fair. So the president has given them a huge tax, an impossible tax. I'm telling you. An impossible tax, no regard to our democracy, no regard to the purpose of our democracy, no regard to the fidelity, to his oath to be faithful to God, no regard. The people that he's placed there to is like they are on a mission. You saw what happened in Edgeso, where an EC official, full of everybody, didn't see any problem taking breakfast money. And the reaction of the EC, Sena is serious. And then if you consider what is at stake, because you see, when in 1992, the people of Ghana decided that, listen, we need to go the constitutional democratic way, it was a recognition that the best way in which our individual liberties, our lives, our rights, granted to us by God himself, can best be protected would be to take upon ourselves this system of governance, this constitutional system of governance, so that if you act in any way which undermines or causes people not to be faithful to the system, then really you are attacking the country. You are attacking our individual liberties. And that is what they are doing. That is what Nana has done. And that's what the EC is reaffirming by her actions. That is what is happening. Listen, 2024, 7th December, they will go. They will go. I'm so sure about that. They will go, we'll sack them. But we must start thinking that would it be enough just to sack them? Shouldn't there be a day of reckoning? Shouldn't there be a day of reckoning? Shouldn't we hold people's feet to the fire? Shouldn't heads be on the chopping board? Yeah, heads must be on the chopping board. Institutional heads must also be on the chopping board. Not say institutional heads. Then people must reconsider their usefulness. Because there's a reason why political parties are formed. And maybe the political parties depart from the reasons why they are formed, then they lose their legitimacy, their rights even to be considered. Yeah, and I'm quoting from their objectives. If you have time, you can go to the objectives and ask yourself, are they pursuing their own objectives when they were given opportunity to lead? Are they pursuing their own objectives? Listen, there should not be a discussion for a final debate, also to sound to all people who claim they believe in the principles of liberal democracy. All the people who, because of the MPP's commitment to the protection of environmental integrity, that right now, that home, we all believe that we had a home there. Those of us who believe in liberal democracy and who love the environment, we believe we had a home in the MPP. And that home has been taken over by familiar spirits. If you stay there, that familiar spirit will permeate you and make you useless. You understand? You'll be useful to our country. Leave that home. Fortunately, a new home has been created for you. A new home. A new home with a good spirit. Movement for change. Leave that spirit. Leave that spirit. Because if you don't live there, one day Ghanaians will come after you. I'm telling you, the way things are going. One day Ghanaians will come after you. Maybe even be now. But the way things are going, the way the charlatans, people who don't believe in these ideals, have taken over that home and have brought in evil spirit. See, when I say familiar spirit, I'm too nice. Evil spirit. One day, maybe it won't be 2024. I don't know. It could be 2024. It could be 2025. It could be 2028. It may be at a time when we may not even be around. But certainly a day will come when Ghanaians will come after you. Leave that home. Leave the evil spirit for them. And thank God that we've created a home for you. Come to the movement for change. Let us continue to hold the flame of liberal democracy and how the ideals of liberal democracy can be used to push this Ghana agenda. You understand? Leave that home and come and let us forge that one Ghana where when we see each other, beyond the fact that we see each other and we see each other as Ghanaians, who probably have different views as to how the country ought to be developed, not as enemies. Because you see, when we not Anchamanti, we certainly all of us will come together. We'll bring everybody together. But you see, when you are in NDC, because we share certain views, I should be able to. I'm finished. In fact, I'm done. I should be able to respect your view, and as I may disagree with you, but for the sake of Ghana, we need to test our views by debating. You understand? Not to respect people because of their political views, and that's what. When the evil spirit took over, they stopped respecting other views. Let us in 2024 sack them and forge that new Ghana which will have a place for different views, different tribes, different opinions, but all those views, all those tribes have just one singular agenda, and that agenda is building that great Ghana for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'll go to Dr. Percy next, but before I do that, a few comments. This is things around us on YouTube. Some of the names on YouTube are very interesting. It says young and old people are dying as a result of working in the Galamsey site with dangerous chemicals. There's user, that's the handle. Do we care about family and friends and loved ones who died as a result of the direct or indirect exposure and impact of Galamsey activities? AP says this is sad and okay. There's an accuracy who says the new license should be revoked immediately to save us from extinction. She again continues, intensive education of the dangers of the destruction of our water bodies as a result of illegal mining should be seriously considered. Things around us, and again, says the communities know the effects, they live with it, and they're just helpless because they can't make any food for themselves. Rocky says, watching from New York City, the MPP had already started the implementation of the 24-hour economy and still criticizing it. The sea can only be this brown unless those Galamsey machines are working 24/7. Black Note Media says the talk is too much. We need a demonstration. The whole country should wake up. Akufo-Addo's level of thinking is not like us. He has, the rest. Thank you very much. And then there's Niem Thompson, who responds to Yajua, says whenever there is war, men die the most. Dr. Percy.
You are inviting us to talk about the EC.
And we have only 10 minutes.
Well, the EC and let's start from the 2018 and the installation of the new electoral commissioner. From that point onwards, by all the yardsticks you can bring up, the EC was converted into an extension of the MPP. With the sole purpose of entrenching President Akufo-Addo and the MPP in power. In point of fact, it has always been a primary objective of the MPP to entrench itself in power, to make it impossible for it to be removed through the popular will. In the period 2001 to 2008 under President Kufuor, they tried to take over the procurement functions of the Electoral Commission. When that was rebuffed, they brought up some allegations about the EC chair's involvement in some illegal forex, something illegal to do with foreign exchange. And with that hanging over his head, they went ahead to steal the 2004 elections. At that time, my friends in the NDC were dazed from their loss in 2000. And they also had, at the head of their party, people who had sworn that so long as they were in charge, Professor Mills would never become president. Okay. Now, that 2004 election that was stolen, there was a lot of preparation that went into it, including preparations of newspaper headlines and articles, okay, by the gentleman who now chairs the Media Commission. Okay. People in the NDC saw what was going on, basically with the transmission of the results, the transposition of, I think there are two constituencies where that came in, Pru and Sena. Then there was this mole in the NDC headquarters who called the MPP and told them that, hey, you guys, they've discovered your agenda, which was what prompted Jacob Eshibilamte to announce the results of our election on GBC. Presented the Electoral Commissioner with a fait accompli. We know that those matters went to court. The court ruled that the quote-unquote exhibits should be preserved, but they were destroyed. And the rest, as they say, is history. All this had been preceded by that statement that J.H. Mensah made. I think he was addressing a rally where he said that by the time they are finished, the opposition would cease to exist, or worse to that effect. Then you have MPP coming under Nanado. He didn't go about it in a roundabout way. He went directly for the jugular. He replaces the EC chair who had declared him winner and installs someone who was willing to work and to convert the commission to an extension of the MPP, which is what we have. I hear my friend, the lawyer, Pierre Damkwa, speaking for the, what is it, Alliance for
Movement for Change.
Okay. Say with a lot of conviction and certainty that you're going to what? Throw them out.
Sack them.
Sack them. I don't think it's going to happen. They cannot leave power. And they are doing any and everything to hold on to power. In their own words, they will not hold a stick and let a dog bite them. And they've spoken to it severally. They've spoken about the million ways that they have. Okay. Now, there's an important part of our history that many people are not aware of. Following the serial defeats in 51, in 54, sorry, yes, and in 56, today's MPP, going back to its ancestors, developed various ways and means of, as they say, leveling the electoral, what's the word they use? Leveling the electoral pitch. And one of the tried and tested means that they had was multiple registration. So you register as many times as you can, and even when you are absent, physically absent, it provides room for various manipulations. Fast forward into the Fourth Republic. A certain gentleman comes into town. He has spent all his time in the UK. He doesn't know about this history of the party. But he says, oh, you know what? We need biometric register. That would make it impossible. Because by then, and that's what one of the things that the NPP is very good at, projecting onto its opponents what itself does. So by then, the belief was widespread that, oh, the NDC won up to that point because of multiple voting in their strongholds. So a biometric register would even the playing field. Initially, my friends in the NDC were opposed to this. Then someone stepped on their toes and told them that, hey, this might work in your interest. So they agreed. So one of the best elections I had was with the biometric. When the biometric register coming into effect?
I think it was for the 2012 elections, I think so.
Yes. Okay. But subsequently, they went back to their history and realized that no, following this wise young man who didn't know about our history, we have thrown away a big advantage. So under Jean Mensa and the new EC, there has been a relentless drive, first of all, to abandon consensus as a basis for electoral management and decision making. Okay. And also the introduction of opacity. So they've insisted regional coalition. That makes it possible for padding. Now if we are to do a forensic analysis of the 2020 elections, you find out a significant difference, a large difference between those who voted for MPP parliamentary candidates and those who voted for the president. That cannot be explained by any logic. I mean, most people would vote. I mean, when you go in there, you are given
both the parliamentary and presidential ballots.
Yes.
And please land for me.
Yes. But I'm saying that this business of introducing opacity and playing games with the register is going to be at the heart of 2024 elections. I'm certain that many persons will go to polling stations and not find their names. It will not be that their names are in, let's say, polling station A instead of B, but they may be in another region, another constituency. And you go around in search. After a few tries, what will you do?
Give up.
You give up and you go home. So I'm not so sanguine about this prospect of throwing the criminals out, as my brother is. But we live to see. It will be a serious indictment on the intelligence of Ghanaians if they retain these criminals in power. But they are determined. They have the EC, they have the courts, they believe they have the security establishment, they have the media. Even if some of them these days try to be, for their own credibility, bring up critical matters, but it's the same old game. I'm not so sanguine about the elections that we're about to have, but we live to see.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And let's conclude with Dr. Albin.
All right, thank you very much. With your permission, before I go on to the Electoral Commission's issues, may I quickly say two things about the forest, the LI 2462. I think the former President John Mahama has made it very, very, very clear that as soon as he comes to power, he will abolish that LI. So that Ghanaians must stay confident that the issue of mining in the forest is very central to the plans of the president, President John Mahama. Again, under the Blue Water Program, the water bodies, in fact, the laws on water bodies, mining on the water body will be strictly enforced to the extent that it will be regularly patrolled. If it means regular flowing of aircraft, military aircraft on the water bodies, that will be done. So that at least for a year or two, there will be the natural settlement of sediment. And then if there's any scientific, and we are still exploring the scientific opportunities for us to clean the water body. So that effort is also at the heart of the president, just to reassure Ghanaians on this. But with the EC, I just want to ask a couple of questions. One, what does forensic audit hurt? How does forensic audit hurt the EC? How does it hurt the EC? How does it make it, any worse? Because the reason for your being there as a fair and just arbiter would be enhanced when there's more transparency. So what is the reasoning? What is the reasoning behind his decision not to accept the call for a forensic audit? Maybe the EC should explain, should give us more reasons why they should. I mean, we know that, and by our constitution, the EC is supposed to be let me say, the go-between in elections. They are supposed to be the neutral ones, and we have had EC bosses. We have had Dr. Farijan. Nobody, we know people, they vote. They have the right to vote. But we don't know where they vote towards. So we have had the confidence in the past ECs. Why is it that now everybody is suspicious of this EC? I think I wonder whether they realize how the public views them in that very highly suspicious light. And of course, it may not be very difficult to find. If you appoint people who are openly associated with the existing party and who actually talk publicly that they are, they are against the other parties, then obviously you don't represent a neutral arbiter in this context. But they should know that they are there because of the people, and the people have the right to choose those who lead them. It is not for any institution to choose for the people who lead them. And I think it's important that Ghanaians would push. I mean, I know Doc has some concerns about the feeling that it's a done deal. Somehow I share part of the concern, but that consent can change if all of us as Ghanaians, wanting our own destinies to be shaped by ourselves, decide that the EC should not be or anybody, not even the president, should not be the reason why our destinies will not be shaped by ourselves. And I think we need to do that. We know that in elections everywhere, sometimes the government in power use other subtle means to gain some advantage. I think two of them, you have this gerrymandering, people just carving out constituencies to suit government, and some of them have been done already. And then, of course, what the Americans call pork barreling, where they use budget and other largesse to convince people. That is something that you can't even touch, because you can't. It's like tax avoidance. But to openly and defiantly make it so incredible, make it so unbelievable, make it so that you cannot actually believe in the quality and the outcome of the election. It's quite difficult. It will be an indictment on a nation that prides itself of leading and consolidating democracy in Africa. So I think all of us as a nation, we shouldn't leave it to a group of people who work in an institution that has been set up by our laws, by our constitution. It is incumbent on Ghanaians to demand, and by whatever means, that the elections, the coming elections, is done in the best possible way, is transparent as possible, it is fair as possible. And if we don't get that, and we don't even have to wait for us not to get that, we must insist on that before we go to the ballot box. Ballot box is not that particular activity, that particular event is not the real composite of the will of the people. Usually many other things come in, and that we need as a collective, as a people, to come out to reject some of the things that are coming. I'm sure the demand for the forensic audit, for which UNDP has agreed to support, doesn't hurt. It actually enhances transparency. Because obviously the integrity of an election is actually determined by how transparent it is, how air is blown on it. But if this opaqueness is sustained, as was done in the past under this particular government, then we have a duty as a people to try and question it now, to try and fight it now, just to ensure that the right decisions are taken and the outcome of the election would actually reflect the will of the people. You know, I mean, we are not saying that the election must by all means be won by one party, but the elections must be won to be a reflection of the people. Sometimes you hear your own friends, NPP friends, who say, well, for the elections, we know you will win if we do that transparently. But they say in a can, we will still in. They are not ashamed of saying this. Aren't they ashamed when they feel that we are not serving the people well, but we will use other means? We have thousands of ways of winning elections, and we are going to deploy that. Aren't they ashamed of saying this? And are Ghanaians going to sit down for that to materialize just because we are afraid, just because we have our balls between our tires? Is that what they say? Our tails between our tires. We need to speak truth to power, speak truth to the EC, and let them know that they have no responsibility to determine who leads the country. It is the people ourselves who should choose who we want to lead our country, and we shouldn't sit down. I mean, that would be my real call. That for what we are picking, for the simple request that let it be transparent, let everybody know how come, and our history doesn't support this, that just before elections you do voter exhibition, and the parties that are supposed to participate in the election don't have the list. They have it hours just before the exhibition. It hasn't happened before. It hasn't happened. Why are we tolerating this? You know, I think we are too tolerant, because when these things happen and we don't do anything, they get the muscle to go ahead and do worse things. So that would be my call. That would be my call. Let all of us, I think, one, the EC must know that it is in their interest It is their credibility interest to get this forensic thing done. And then the people must also demand for the right thing to be done. We deserve better than being having leadership being enforced on us.
Look, thank you. Thank you very much. Just a few comments, then we'll bring this to a close. This is Prince Henry Koforidua, who says the MPP government has made Galamsey one of their social intervention. What has happened to I have put my presidency on the fight against Galamsey by Nana Akufo-Addo. I can't blame anyone but Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia because they have given the power to act on our behalf, and in this case, that has failed woefully. Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia can't find corruption because they are benefiting and involved directly. No wonder we are told Party Hiasika, the future is pregnant. Thank you very much for that comment. This is from Kojo Chumbwa for Sena, the partisan political EC, starring the who is who in MPP political apparatchiks, have no interest in fairness and being impartial. If a body like the EC that is grounded in fairness has on it TESCOM patrons, MPP serial callers, and the chair herself being a generational MPP member, then they should take their own arbitration into this fight to reset our country. Expect the worst from the MPP EC. That's coming from Kojo Chumbuafo. And then let me read this one from the UK. Masa Musa says, as we speak, we have TV and radio talk show hosts asking the same questions. They've been asking for the past 5 to 6 years and getting the same answers. We are being told politicians are involved. Which ones? The chiefs are involved. Who are those chiefs? You and I, none the wiser. And because we can't find those criminals, some are saying we should all take collective blame. This I can agree. Now you'll appreciate, he said, now you'll appreciate Chuni Jonas and Kevin Taylor when they speak. Hopefully after 7 December 2024, the talking will stop and action will start. Masa Musa, I have that belief. So he has a lot of faith in what will happen after 7th December. A lot of you have been asking about Kwame Kwesi Pratt Jr. He did. That's all I can say. He issued a statement over the week. In fact, yesterday, the statement he issued. And he says, my attention has been drawn to a report circulating on the internet stating that I have predicted victory for Vice President Bawumia in the upcoming presidential elections. According to the report, this prediction was made on the morning show of Pan-African Television on 5th September 2024. The report is false. I am traveling and have not participated in discussions on Pan-African TV or any other Ghanaian media platform for roughly a month. To be clear, I have never predicted Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's victory in the 2024 election. The fact on the ground points to a completely different outcome. Further, for the avoidance of doubt, I have never called on Ghanaians to vote for or support Dr. Bawumia's campaign in any way whatsoever. Clearly, this falsehood is the work of desperate and unscrupulous forces in the Bawumia campaign machine living in a fool's paradise. My message to these forces is show some respect for the electorate. The 2024 elections cannot be won by such deceitful and scandalous gimmicks. That's coming from Kwame Kwesi Pratt Jr. So he's indicated. If you ever see anything circulating that is endorsed by Bawumia, he has not done that. Well, there's also, before I came on the show, I kept getting calls from the NDC in Ablekuma West. They said they are doing a fundraising dinner today for their campaign. They said they're doing it at the legendary event center at Dansoman. So you can be part of this. The NDC in Ablekuma West doing a fundraising dinner at the legendary event center. They'll start at 5 p.m. sharp. Well, that's our show for today. And once a big thank you for joining us. Let me say a big thank you to our panel for today. Starting from my right, lawyer Apia Dankwa is a member of the Movement for Change Alliance for Revolutionary Change. And of course, a big thank you to Dr. Tony Obing, for joining us. He's a spokesperson for the NDC, a manifesto spokesperson on mining. And of course, Ajua Ejapon Ma Anson is a communication team member of the National Democratic Congress. And Dr. David Percy is a student of history and politics. Well, I am Sena Nombo. For my crew, producers led by Tijani Badamasi, Rabina Frimpong, and of course the CEO of Abindadi, Latifa Adam, Gerard, who is the director. A big thank you to Sewa, who started this off nicely for us. We say a big thank you to you for making time, and a big thank you to affiliate stations across the country who pick this show live. We are back same time next week with another edition of the show. We really appreciate your company. We wish you a fruitful week. We'll see you next week.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people.
China Now is a show dedicated to providing the world with an overview of today's China. Here, you will learn about how China works, how China thinks, and how China views itself and the rest of the world. Let China not be far away from you anymore. Join us every Saturday at 8 a.m.
So there's some look fast. Baba, me again. Let's all yell it. Me quite human. Oh, hear me. Mentiment sent my family doctor when I'm crossing over. See what was swearing. She has malaria. Malaria. Oh, why they say what the router? Me copy the absence here. A drone a friend router next. You come and let the draw. And running so Gap trap and the draw ku abaso body ase wabo ruta mixture abaso ruta natural products nduane ne ruta mixture ya de kutia atridi ruta tonic and the ruta life wa ehuru efin slade bone efin nipadua mu na support immune system no ruta de obi ase ye FDA age dwede nkrato ya tu.
It's also a little bit of a cliche. I mean, we're all used to the James Bond scene, as it were, with all the ambassadors sipping champagne and seeming to do nothing else but dine and sip champagne at receptions. That is not true. That is a misconception of the time and the nature of the work.
Diplomacy is not devoid of accountability.
Everything that matters in Africa matters